It seems like one technical difficulty after the other. I do believe a lot of it has to do with the music I've been playing. I'm going to do my best in the future here to play music and to entertain. I mean, that's something that I really want to do, but to also not step on the toes of Big Brother. Seems like that's just not a wise thing to try. I'm not out to cause problems with the powers that be. I do like this medium. I do like being able to come to you in this live fashion. It's very interactive. I do like to get your opinions. And I also love to play music for y'all. I really enjoy it. So what's going to happen now in the future is before church proper, which today there'll be an abridged sermon, is what we're going to do today. But before the church proper, I will be here and I will play at least an hour of music and then end the broadcast and immediately restart the broadcast in church. And the reason why is myself, the Britisher, RPR, Cass S, the Finer Print, I could go on and on, Zero Cool, all these people come by, Mark Doppelganger, Tigerson, all these folks come by and we put our thought and our time and effort into what we're doing. None of us get paid. It's just, for lack of a better term, it's just a public service that we want to perform. And then what happens is there's a song in there, right? And the last one was, I won't even say who requested it, but I took a request. It wasn't on my approved list. Mercy's sake on me. And this very arcane dance tune that I loved, I thought it was great, turned out to be, it was owned by the man. So it was taken down. And that means that the Monday show was a complete loss, because maybe they have me on some kind of warning thing right now that I don't know. But on the Ogre channel, not Ogre, which you're on now, but on the Ogre, on the Ogre channel, the one that I originally started to have streams on, I can edit those. If there's a song in there that's blocked worldwide, I can edit it and then put the clip back up. For some reason on this channel, I've tried it for days. I left it up even on a private way as long as I was willing to, and then I took it down because it won't let me edit it. It will not let me cut out a song. I was watching Lionel Nation earlier today, and you know, a Defrader watcher was there, and Me Too was there. I saw a few people from church there, and boy, he said some powerful things about this medium. And that is why I'm choosing to split up the music in church, because I'll be damned, I'm not going to destroy my ability to reach out in this medium, to have the interesting folks that come by and give their opinions on things in this medium, you know, over the man not want me to play music. So as I said before, what I'll be doing now is on Saturday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time, 11 o'clock out there on the left coast, Pacific Standard Time. I'll be playing music then, and probably an hour before church, we'll have a short song service. At the end of that song service, I will end the broadcast. I'll end it and then immediately start up another one. That way, if something happens and they take it down due to some song or whatever it is that they may not like, I can go ahead and continue on. And yeah, Review the Earth. I'm not sure if you're busy. I'm just going to shoot this out in the main chat now. If you come in right now, I'm going to be editorializing. In fact, I'll just wait just a couple minutes because if you came in now, I wouldn't want anybody to talk right at the very beginning anyway. I have something to say here, something that affects Big Clinton Cox as much as it does me. Flint Bishop Airport. I mean, my gracious, one of the last places on earth I would ever imagine somebody screaming Allahu Akbar and then trying to kill people, stabbing a rent-a-cop, stabbing a, what would we call him? I don't rent-a-cop. I'm not trying to be disparaging, but what it amounts to, what this person is just a police officer, kind of, that works at the airport, and that's okay, Clinton. I can handle this, and I'll probably tweet this out to a couple people. I'm not even sure. I just want to get this off my chest. So yeah, Clinton, stabbed in the neck. Let's take a look here. Hopefully this will come through clear. It says Flint Bishop Airport. Now before I start this, I just want to make a little something I've noticed. When this first came out, they didn't say anything about what somebody yelled. You could see, you could read between the lines, and it was so short. This is a serious thing. Somebody stabbed a airport security guard in the bloody neck. He's there bleeding. People see it. Closed down the airport. But no name. They've caught the person immediately. No, still to this point, unless it's come up since I started this broadcast, nowhere are they saying this human being's name that did this. Nowhere. It's conspicuously absent from the conversation. You know, it's really bumming me out. Why? Well, let's read this together now, and I'll give you my 2 cents on that. So it says Flint Bishop Airport. This is police and law enforcement. This is Fox News USA. Flint Bishop Airport. Police officer stabbed in critical condition. Airport evacuated. You see there's some of Flint's finest, probably Burton police. I can't really see there. I think it might be, well, whatever it is. There's some police officers from around the area. It says a police officer was stabbed in the neck at Bishop International Airport in Flint, Michigan, and the airport was evacuated. Bishop International Airport posted Wednesday on Facebook that the officer was hurt, but offered no details about the incident. The post added that passengers were safe and being told to check for flight delays or cancellations. Ken Brown tells the Flint Journal he was dropping off his daughter at the airport and saw the officer bleeding from his neck. He says he saw a man detained by police and a knife on the ground. And this is a quote from Ken Brown. The cop was on his hands and knees, bleeding from his neck. I said they need to get him a towel, end quote. On Twitter, Michigan State Police say the officer's in critical condition. Airport and police officials didn't immediately respond to messages from the Associated Press seeking comment. And this isn't the one that I originally had pulled up. I'll find it right now. I'll pull it up. But you notice there, no name of anyone. They have detained this person. It should be, every time I see something happen like this, they don't mess around. You know, they give out the information of the suspect as soon as possible. You know, there's no presumption of privacy for someone that would stab a police officer or any other human being or dog or cat or anything, let alone a security guard at the, I mean, this strikes me as insane. So I'm looking, no name of the suspect, right? No indication to why. Apparently this person just randomly went to this airport and decided that they wanted to stab a police officer. Well, let's look here. This is click on Detroit. NBC News. Feds looking into Flint Airport stabbing as possible act of terrorism. Listen, I'm not so much into hate crimes and acts of terrorism and all this, yada, yada, yada. Good to see you here. Me too. It was nice to see you over there at Lionel Nations. I was just talking about that. But, you know, here it is. Possible act of terrorism. I'm not so much into labeling things as terrorism. If someone breaks into your house, they've terrorized you. If somebody beats you up or stabs you or pulls a gun out on you or runs a car into you or a moving van while you're on the London Bridge, it's terrorism. It doesn't matter really what their motivation is. But now we have these qualifiers. So it says here, it's possible act of terrorism. It's crazy. It is an act of terrorism. It stabbed a guy in the neck. How you doing, Going Youper? So NBC News. Feds looking into Flint Airport stabbing as possible act of terrorism. Now it's making sure that it says this much. Canadian-born suspect. Canadian-born suspect, people. Come on. This stinks to high heaven right already. Canadian-born suspect shouted, Allahu Akbar. End quote. Then you see some more of Flint's finest here, probably Burton, possibly Genesee County. It says Flint Township, Michigan. Police say an airport officer was stabbed in the neck Wednesday morning at Bishop International Airport in Flint. The officer was taken to the hospital, Michigan State Police said. The officer is in critical condition. However, his condition has been upgraded to stable. So, stable. He still got stabbed in the neck. Police identified the injured officer as Lieutenant Jeff Neville. Bishop International Airport was evacuated and closed. Now, they're given the officer's name that was stabbed. No problem there, huh? It's going down. The FBI said that they're aware of reports that the attacker made statements immediately prior or while attacking the officer, but it's too early to determine the nature of the alleged statements or whether or not it was an act of terrorism. Based on information that we have at this time, we believe this to be an isolated incident, Oh, my gracious. Manchester, London, daggone, Ohio State. Oh, my gracious. It goes on and on. So they're calling it an isolated incident, the FBI said in a statement. Police said a suspect had been taken into custody. The airport released the following statement. No name of the suspect. They gave the officer's name to stab, no name of the suspect. All passengers are safe and being evacuated at this time. Please check with your airline for potential cancellation or delays. The FBI leading the investigation said the Flint City Hall began operating under heightened security and an abundance of caution after this incident. Right now, we are still awaiting more information about the situation at Bishop Airport this morning. Flint Mayor Karen Weaver said, my thoughts and prayers are with all of our law enforcement officers who work to serve and protect us each and every day. I want the public to know several agencies are involved in working for this. Now, I'm telling you, what's bumming me out is I read an article, and I'm going to find it, dagnabbit. I'm going to go through my history here real quick while I try to talk and walk and chew bubblegum all at the same time. But they're leaving out that it just said in the headline, Allahu Akbar. Now they're discounting the fact that they have witnesses that heard this person shout, Allahu Akbar, Allah who saves me. Apparently, that's the mating call of these morons getting ready to go meet their 72 virgins, maybe 72 Virginians. Wouldn't that be nice if it turned out to be that for them? So I'm still looking. I'm looking back here in my history, and then I'm going to editorialize a little bit on this, just to see, because I read it right in the body of an article that there was, they're saying that the people that were witnessing this said that they heard this person saying Allahu Akbar, I don't know what more we really need. I am guessing the reason they're not releasing his name right now is because his name is Ahmed or something like that. And when we see it, it's going to be like, holy crap. Of course, it's a Muslim. Why would we be shocked at this point? I mean, didn't the mayor of London say that we needed to get used to this kind of thing if we were going to live in cities, that it's just the way it was now? It's nothing to be looked at as anything serious. It's not, don't worry, folks. Don't worry about it. It's just the way it is now. I have a really serious problem with that. I can't imagine that it's okay or it's justified. And I look at these weepy folks coming out of that mosque talking about how it's so terrible and Islamophobia. What is this? Is this Western phobia? Is this freedom phobia? Is this liberty phobia? I've asked my wife, and she doesn't want to wear a polyester bag with eye slits in it, obviously invented to punish a woman for being a woman. She don't want to do it. I'd like to smoke my thinking weed. Hell, if I'd like to have a shot of whiskey if I want to, if I care to. It's my business. These people, oh man, you cannot drink booze in their society. I don't even know how to feel about this now that I see it's happening right here. I mean, this is very, very close to my home right now. And I mean, within 200 miles of my home. I believe in my heart they've made a bad mistake with this. Islam has. Dearborn, Michigan is the largest concentration of Middle Easterners in the United States. We let them live there. We let them refuse to sell cakes to gay people. Refuse it. They don't get shut down or nothing. They just, well, if you go in there, Steven Crowder has a wonderful thing on it. Go down to Dearborn and ask all the people you want that run, you know, little cake shops and whatnot, the Muslims in Dearborn. If you will make a cake for you and tell them you're gay, they won't do it. Will not do it. No lawsuits, no ACLU up in arms, nothing. A screaming, glaring lack of commentary. But we've allowed these people to live here and follow their strange customs and their strange religion, believe their strange thoughts, adhere to their unreal dogma. We've allowed that. Now they're attacking us here in Michigan. In Michigan, where we've been very tolerant, very diverse here. I live way out in the country. You see black folks. You go up to a place called Petoskey, Michigan. It is the most diverse little town that I've ever seen in the middle of nowhere. You see black folks, you see white folks, you see a lot of Asian folks in Petoskey. Very tolerant this state is. We don't believe in don't come around here, nigger. We don't believe in get out of here, white boy. We don't believe in, you know, we don't want spics around here. Hell, we don't believe in Irish need not apply. We don't believe in that. We believe that everybody should be able to work. It's been that way forever. General Motors, you know, Ford Motor Company. That's why we have so many black folks here, is because they came here to the auto industry and they were welcomed with open arms at a time in the South where they couldn't even drink out of the same fucking water fountain as somebody else due to the color of their skin. And it's sickening when you think about that, but how much more sickening is this? It's now 2007. It's now current year, right? You know, I'm not trying to sound like some liberal lunatic, but it's now the current year. It's 2017, at least for 6 more months. And here we are with a man, Allahu Akbar, stabbing people in the neck. It's not only time that something was done, it's time that Americans, the United States government stands up and says, you know what? This isn't about, because if y'all remember, I mean, the daggone, the extreme travel vetting that they try to just keep on calling a travel ban. Now, but look at all the crap that came from that. Oh, it's so racist and blah, blah, blah. And it's against their freedom to practice whatever religion that they want. No, it's extreme vetting. It's one of the platforms you ran on. 90 days, I believe, and they want to check you out before you come from one of these 5 countries. And maybe this is why. Hell, this is from a Canadian born, they make sure to tell you. So maybe we should have extreme vetting for everyone. Man, I'm not going to just jump off and go down that road, but I'm still looking for the article I was reading earlier, and there is nothing right now that's just coming right out and saying that people heard this person shout Allahu Akbar. I'm going to put Flint Airport Attack and see what comes up then. Possible terror incident. I think that's the one I just read. This is really killing me. Oh, no, here we go. This was the one that I had. At least they haven't taken it down, because to me that would be horrible. This is ABC News, believe it or not. Michigan airport stabbing. Officer attacked in possible terror incident. Possible terror incident. Oh, my goodness. An officer for Bishop International Airport was stabbed Wednesday in a possible terror-related incident in Flint, Michigan, sources told NBC News. The attacker allegedly shouted Allahu Akbar before stabbing Lieutenant Jeff Neville. Again, giving the Jeff Neville's name, but let's see if they give this human piece of garbage's name. Who was bleeding from the neck, sources and witnesses at Bishop International Airport said. Neville is a member of the airport's Department of Public Safety and a retired Genesee County Sheriff's Department lieutenant. Law enforcement officials said the suspect is from Quebec and has a Canadian passport. I'm betting that if this person is first, second, third generation Quebecer, that his name again is Mohammed El Sakhi or something very similar to that. The enunciation of their words sometimes is I can't quite get it. It's tough for me, but I do my best. So it says again, Neville's a member of blah, blah, blah. Law enforcement officials said the suspect is from Quebec, Canada, and has a Canadian passport. In a statement released by the FBI, officials said it's still too early to determine what motivated the attack. But they were questioning the suspect. were aware of reports that the attacker made statements immediately prior to or while attacking the officer. But it's too early to determine the nature of these alleged statements or whether or not this was an act of terrorism, the statement reads. I'll say it again. Stabbed a guy in the neck in broad daylight in the airport. That terrorized some people. You know, I don't really like them qualifiers, as I've already mentioned. I'll probably mention it 10 more times, but this was an act. People were terrorized. Would you agree? They were terrorized. I'll tell you very, very blue. I'm going to editorialize a second as soon as I'm done reading this little piece here. And I'll let you know again what happened. Okay, so there are reports, but they keep calling them alleged reports of Allahu Akbar. Officials said that they believe the attack was an isolated incident and that there was no specific credible threat to the Flint community. I can't even read this garbage. Yeah, okay. Well, it's like saying a horrible tornado ripped through Genesee County and devastated Grand Blanc and Burton, Michigan. But there is now no threat to the residents of Burton and Grand Blanc, Michigan. No, the tornado's passed. It's gone. It doesn't mean that this thing was any less impactful. You know, I hope to goodness that this lieutenant doesn't die. I just can't believe a man's retired. A man's just there trying to make an extra penny for his family, and some human being comes and stabs him in the neck with. I can't even fathom this. I tell you, he's lucky in a lot of ways. Not the victim, the attacker. This human is lucky that he wasn't gunned down like a dog. I mean, I can't really in my heart believe that he wasn't killed. He probably was detained. Hopefully, as the story progresses, it wouldn't break my heart to know that some Michiganders detained him. Again, if that happened, just like the Britishers said it would happen anywhere. If that happened, just like the Englishman that ran his car into some Muslims there at the mosque in London here just a couple days ago. Yeah, he's lucky too. You can't just go do that if you don't get killed in the act. The people around have seen this horrible thing. What do you want from anybody? Muslim, American, anyone. I mean, what do you want? It's in the heat of the moment. It's like if someone was to break into your house and they're beating your child or your wife or your loved one or your friend that's there, the stranger that's in your gate at the moment, and they stop, but you have your, I mean, it'd be very easy to, in the heat of the moment, do something bad. So in my heart, I can't believe this. And now, you know, hey, we live in America. So this alleged stabber of people is actually still on 2 feet. Can't believe that they didn't take him out of the Flint Bishop Airport feet first. And very, very blue, if you're still here, what happened was today, I believe at 9 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, a guy who they're not telling us his name. They will not tell us his name. He was from Quebec and had a Canadian passport. But there are reports of him shouting Allahu Akbar before sticking airport security guard in the neck, stabbing him in the neck. And the security guard, retired police lieutenant named Jeff Neville, was in critical condition, and he's been upgraded to stable condition. I don't care if he makes a complete recovery. The man was stabbed in the neck in a public place. That's beyond what any one of us should ever have to deal with. I can't believe it. And by the way, he said Anna Moon. Well, for one thing, I don't believe in metal detectors. And in the old days, you could carry a gun or anything else you wanted on the plane, as long as it was legal. And in this airport I've been to many times, you've got to go through TSA. You know, before you go through TSA, you could, you know, there's no real checkpoints there. And I certainly would say this is no reason for us to lose our heads and say, oh, we need more security. No, more security ain't going to help nobody in this situation. You could have 1938 German-style security. If you see something, you must say something. Heil. That kind of security. And then still, things would happen. Because people that are motivated by this level of hate for our way of life, for who we are, this freedom phobia that they have, this liberty phobia that they dwell on, there'll be no deterrent. The only thing that it would happen with more security or more TSA, or put the TSA right at the door, pat everybody down and take their, is that's it. I would be patted down and take my shoes off before I went into the Flint Bishop Airport. And what good's that going to do? You know, they'll get some throwers, they'll put it on the plane, the bomb, whatever. They have a way around it, believe me. In the end, the question that needs to be asked is, because I think that trying to work with Islam, you know, you can go back to the Ayatollah Khomeini. You can go back before that. You can look into how it was in Tehran, Iran, before we installed the mullahs. And I tell you, man, I would have been a lot better if we'd have just left our nose out of that stuff. And at least then, if it came to this point, we could say, well, we left our nose out of it and they brung it to us. And I still feel that way, believe me. They brung it to us, but we haven't left our nose out of it. You got Jimmy Carter over there with Ayatollah Khomeini, you know, buddies. You got the daggone, I mean, it's always about the oil, and the George W. over there holding hands, and Obama over there. I mean, they hold hands with these people. I know it's their culture, but we don't dig that culture, man. I'm going to tell you, I ain't seen no pictures of Trump holding hands. They did get him doing that little sword dance and putting his hands on the world there. That weird little, was weird. But I didn't see no pictures of him holding hands with nobody. I don't do that. We don't do that. I mean, you know, it's just like two men don't hold hands and walk down the street here. Well, that some do. And like I said, teach their own. And these people wouldn't say that. I see more and more the rise of, oh, we got to stop Islamophobia. It's such a terrible thing. And you know what's terrible is that people would even come up with a word like that, Islamophobia. It's insane. It's not an irrational fear. Here's another instance where you can see plainly with your own eyes. You don't have to be have second sight or have this great power of deduction at your disposal. All you have to do is see the pattern of things. Look what's been going on. Their imams have been preaching, stab them with knives, run them over with cars. Yes, they've said this before. Amanda Wolfchild pointed it out that there was some comedians saying, hey, why don't these morons get a brain and start running people over with cars? And that could have maybe planted the seed in some of these imams' heads. I really respect Amanda. That's why I even bring that up. But in my head, I can't even give that. The only reason I give it credence is because she does, honest to God. Because, well, if she thinks that that could be a cause of it, I respect that young lady. She knows her ass from a hole in the ground, so to speak. I guarantee you. But here's the problem. They preach, run them over with cars, stab them with knives, find them in their place where they live and kill them. And then it happens. We cannot take any credit for this. We can't say, well, it's because somebody bombed somebody in Syria, or oh, because of the Iraq war, or because of whatever. It could because of the Ayatollah Khomeini. Who remembers Hamas? Who remembers the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or the PLA, the Palestinian Liberation Army? These things have been going on for a long time. The Silk Road. I mean, my gracious, I know I get arguments about this, but the reason they found where I'm at right now, the New World is what they call it. The reason they found it is because they were desperately trying to find a way to China and the Far East without going to the Middle East. They didn't want to do it. Because the jizya is just another way for them to say, hey, we're going to tax you one way or the other. The jizya makes it holy. It makes it good. It makes it right. Oh, my gracious. I can't even. And now it's in Flint, Michigan. It is far beyond time for us to do something. And no, listen carefully, folks. The ogre would never say it's time for us to stab back or blow people up. I won't lie. When I seen that happen there, and when I seen the man run the minivan into those folks at the mosque, I did think, well, you reap the wind. You sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. Of course, that went through my mind. I did think of an eye for an eye, a tooth for tooth, and you know, as it's done, so shall it be done unto you. But none of these things make any difference with the root problem. Of course, if you hit with an iron bar on an iron table, bam, it's going to bounce back up. You hit it right and hard enough, it's going to bounce back up and whack you in the face. And of course, this is a reaction well, the car and up there, the Englishman that ran his minivan into some Muslims. It's a reaction to this kind of thing. But it's not a good reaction. And what the reaction needs to be, how can we root this out? How can we get this completely out of our lives, out of our countries, out of everything? Just be done with it. I'm going to play a really quick song that I know won't get me into any trouble and take 5 and come back and wrap this thing up. Probably shoot this link out into the chat so that Sleek the Geek and if the Finer Print, I'm sure the Finer Print's in work. In fact, I don't know who will be in work and who won't. But if Youper's free, if anybody's free and would like to come in and give their 2 cents on the record here where other folks will watch it, where other folks will think about what's said, go ahead and do that. But I'm going to, here, let's see. Let's see here. I'm going to play a little funny tune right here starring Donald J. Trump. I actually have to do something. I almost made the same mistake again. I want y'all to hear this song. So let me go in here. Let me go to my playback devices. Let me go to voice meter. Let me click OK. Up. Yep, I'm still there. And voice meter is now the default. Yep, and I'm still there. So here we go. Now I can do this, man. This is going to be fun. Tell y'all what. Check out this tune. It's free. You can find it on YouTube, and it's funny.
You know, I've been hearing more and more about a thing called fake news. Fake news. I've seen people destroyed, and I think it's very unfair. Some of the media outlets that I deal with the fake news. Fake news. I think it's a disgrace, the absolute disgrace, but I don't think they care. Well, first of all, one of the reasons I'm here today is to tell you the whole Russian thing, that's a ruse. It's a ruse. I own nothing in Russia. I don't have any deals in Russia. Russia is fake news. I just see many, many untruthful things. The press has become so dishonest. The public doesn't believe you people anymore. You have a lower approval rate than Congress. You know, I've been hearing more and more about a thing called fake news. Fake news. I've seen people destroyed, and I think it's very unfair. Some of the media outlets that I deal with the fake news. Fake news. I think it's a disgrace, the absolute disgrace, but I don't think they care. I'll tell you something, I don't mind bad stories. I can handle a bad story better than anybody as long as it's true. But I'm not okay when it is fake. It's all fake news. I mean, it's story after story after story. We're not gonna let it happen again. The public gets it. When I go to rallies, they want to throw their record to CNN. Here's the thing. I want to see an honest press. I want to see an honest press. I want to see an honest press. It's so important to see an honest press. I want to see an honest press. I want to see an honest press. But our nation's reporters will not tell you the truth. So I'll go over just some of them. MSNBC, you are fake news. The New York Times, you are fake news. CBS, NBC, ABC, BBC, LA Times, you are fake news. The Washington Post, you are fake news. CNN, very fake news. Politico, AP, HuffPo, BuzzFeed, failing pile of garbage. And I've been hearing more and more about a thing called fake news. Fake news. I've seen people destroyed, and I think it's very unfair. Some of the media outlets that I deal with the fake news. Fake news. I think it's a disgrace, the absolute disgrace, but I don't think they care.
All right, I might actually be getting this down. I hope that I just switched from one to the other. Now I got to switch back to speakers because I can't fix any problems on air. And yeah, it's like I thought that was going, but it wasn't coming through my speakers. I couldn't hear a daggone thing while that was going on. I just had to take a little break for a second, have a little puff off a cig. Hi, Amber. By the way, Amber, you can tell him in there if you want, but Amber's fine. She was going through a rough patch. For everybody that may have been out there, you know, worried about my little niece, we really appreciate it. I know she does. Great girl. But we all go through a rough patch. And you know what they say, what don't kill us makes us stronger. So this Muslim didn't kill me. So it makes my resolve stronger. I am at the point now where I honestly feel we need to do something to stop this rhetoric in our countries. If they want to preach that over there, well, that's fine. But I not only believe that, and yeah, a finer print, I may play another one. It depends upon how long I stay around. I got some things I got to do. Oh, it's Holy War by Megadeth, and I can't play that one today, mate. I haven't tried that one yet. I have my list in front of me. I've got to be very careful with these, because then all the editorializing that I or anyone else does will be lost if, excuse me, if they decide to take it down. I've tried to go back and edit, but they won't even let me edit on this channel anymore. I don't know why. I think the man's getting mad. So before I talk much more about this, that just reminded me that something was lost from Monday. It's come to my attention that Miss Sevy Rose has run into some problems. She's gotten ill, and of course nobody chooses to get ill. There's not much we can do about it. But Sevy's just a really nice woman. I'm gonna tell y'all what, she's just she's second to none. You know, I'm not just saying that, folks. I'm telling you the truth. I don't know her personally, okay, but I've run into her in this medium, and I know her to be just the kind of person that she's not going to get involved in drama. You know, she doesn't want to be involved in any kind of trolling or drama. She ain't gonna take sides. So, you know, if to you a friend is somebody that any little thing that might happen to you to run and blah, 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 no, she's not gonna get involved in drama. And that's all the more reason for me to want to help this person. As I said, she hit some hard times here with an illness. This is a good American girl, good human being. And I believe that it's, she's said it out loud. So I believe I can say I don't want to say, I'll let her tell you what the illness is if she wants to. But I'm going to tell you this. Miss Sevy's ill. You can see right here on this, I can click on Patreon right now, and this pops up. And I can see that the picture's blurry. I don't know why. I've got everything set to high, and my internet's boosted right up as high as it can go. But if you click on this, you know, you could share $1 with her. You could share $2. And why? I think I've already been very clear about why. She's a stand-up girl that's hit this illness. There's no way we can know when this kind of thing would come upon us. It's not like she could have prepared. I can't look at her and say, oh, she could have saved money and whatever because she lost a job. This is something that she has no control over. And I believe she has a number in mind. She'd like to reach $1,000 because right now they're only covering a very small amount of money that she needs for her drugs, and not the kind of drugs that make us happy. I believe actually some of the drugs that she needs would make her very sick. So as I said I was going to do Monday, I swung by there and I slipped her a few bucks. And I very much encourage everybody now today, if the mood is on you and you have an extra $5 laying around and, you know, it ain't going to kill you. Hi, ZK. It ain't going to kill you to help somebody out that needs it and deserves it. I really encourage you to follow this link to her Twitter. And, you know, you don't have to mention me or anything. I would make nothing on this whatsoever. This is just because I like this girl. And I see her as a worthy person that deserves help. And does everybody deserve help? No. That's why I'm saying this. No, some people, you know, hey, please help me, please help me. And they may or may not deserve it, need it, have it coming. This human being would not use this money for, listen, I'm just going to stop right there because this isn't an infomercial. But that was my way of saying, if you see somebody that needs something and you have it, and it wouldn't kill you to give it, why not? Why not? It's it'll make you feel better. It'll put a smile on your face. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to tweet this out to the Britisher real quick. I don't know if he'll be able to swing by. I just seen that he messaged me about 20 minutes ago. I've been wrapped up in this, and I know that he's taking a little break, I do believe, much needed break. And all of us need to do that from time to time. So let me shift my mind back here and make one more little statement. Before, heck, I might play another tune and come back and just give a final word. To have open arms is a wonderful thing. To be ready to help is a beautiful thing. But I think everybody's heard me tell this little fable before, but I'm going to say it again. Well, there was an ant and a grasshopper that lived quite close to each other, and it was a beautiful Michigan spring. And the grasshopper was sitting back on a blade of grass, playing his fiddle and looking at the sun and listening to the wind in the grass and just enjoying his day. And he could see this ant toiling. Oh, here he's got a whole pea. He's carrying the pea back to his ant house. He sees him come back again, and he's got a whole kernel of corn. He's carrying it. He's trudging along. It's getting warm. The sun is up. And finally, after he comes back again with yet another nut, 10 times bigger than the ant, is laboring along. He says, "Mr. Ant, what are you doing, man? It's a beautiful day." So, how you doing, Mr. Grasshopper? I seen you there enjoying it. I'm getting my stores ready and together for this harsh winter that's on its way. I've got to get my family right and keep it together. I suggest you do the same thing. It's plenty of time. And of course, time goes on. Now it's high summer, man. It's the middle of August. Same thing. You see the ant laboring. He says, "What are you doing, Mr. Grasshopper? How you doing, man? How you doing, Mr. Ant? I see you're still sweating out here in the hot sun." "Well, yes, sir. And you probably should be looking forward to the winter too and setting your stores up." Well, of course, the grasshopper thought to himself, "I got plenty more time." He even said so to the ant. "I got plenty more time. The harvest isn't even yet upon us." Well, now it's September and the harvest is full. And here's Mr. Ant still again, carrying seeds and corn and all of these things back to his domicile to prepare for the harsh Michigan winter. And yet again, here's Mr. Grasshopper on his blade of grass, playing his violin, enjoying this fall day as the temperatures start to cool down. And the ant tells him one more time, "Mr. Grasshopper, it is time. You really need to prepare yourself, because even though these days are beautiful, the hard days are coming." We all know what happens. Come January, when the days are only 6 hours long up here and the winds howl and it sounds like a mournful chorus of congregated ghosts. Who should knock on the ant's door? It's Mr. Grasshopper. And he's knocking on that door saying, Mr. Ant, please help me. I seen that you were putting up all these stores and you have all this food. I'm freezing to death out here, Mr. Ant." And the ant said, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Grasshopper. Had you even helped me gather stores, there'd be enough for you in here. But I've only have enough now through my labors of the summer to have enough for my family." We all know how it ends. The grasshopper dies. The ant tried to help the grasshopper, friends. That's what I'm telling you. There is a difference between helping by giving good advice, giving a hand out when you see someone struggling like Mrs. Sevy's doing right now to just make the basics in life. There's a difference between that and just watching someone throw it all away and then come and say, "Hey, is there something you can do for me now that I've gone past the point of no return?" Of course, this is a harsh story about the ant and grasshopper. The grasshopper dies. And I'm not saying we should let anybody die. I don't believe that even for a minute. But what I am saying is it is possible to help too much. That's the only way I can really put it. So that said, I'm going to play one more tune. I'm going to go out and smoke a little bit of cigarette, see if that gave the Britisher enough time to swing on back by. And let's see. You know what? Maybe that didn't work because I didn't pop this up. Let me see. Maybe if I pop this up, I'll actually be able to hear it this time. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? So let me go to voice meter and set as default. Oh, and my voice is still there, so that's a good sign. And then let me do this. I'm going to play another tune for y'all, just like I said. This is by Pogo. You'll notice that the songs that I'm playing are very carefully picked. These are things that I know aren't owned by anybody, so that the man can't shut us down. Enjoy a little Trump popular.
Love the flow. 69. Now it's time for new, believable people, and we must do it. If we don't control insiders, this will be over and over. To lead by an any big fat love, find common ground to halt the spread of lies, and we must do it big fat love, find common ground to halt the spread of lies, and any America first, non-fatal. We much better, believable people, and we must do it non-fatal. Communication very much higher. America first, to lead by an edit. Insiders fighting for insiders. Time to stop. Insiders fighting for insiders. More of insiders fighting for insiders. Time to stop. Insiders fighting for insiders. America first. Love the flow. 69. Now it's time for new, believable people, and we must do it. If we don't control insiders, this will be over and over. To lead by an edit, big, fat love, find common ground, to hold the spread of lies. And we must do it, big, fat love, find common ground, to hold the spread of lies. And edit. America first. America first. Non-fatal. We want to build a much better, believable people, and we must do it non-fatal. Communication very much higher. America first, to lead by an edit. Insiders fighting for insiders. Time to stop. Insiders fighting for insiders. More of insiders fighting for insiders. Time to stop. Insiders fighting for insiders. America first. Love the flow.
Yeah, well, no, Amber. Uncle Dusty doesn't really smoke cigarettes. I've been really slacking back. I quit drinking for 20 days. And then over the past about 5 or 6 days, I've had a couple beers here and there. And I can already see that, for me, that's a slippery slope. So instead of getting off into that in my personal life, that's all I'm going to say. So while I'm not drinking, man, I have a terrible craving for coffee and cigarettes, man. It's unreal. It just seems like I got to have one or the other. But I've got to get the cigarettes under wraps also, because it's not good to trade one habit for another. But right now, Uncle Dusty's going to enjoy a little smoking weed, Sweet Amber, and hope that you're very good. So listen, folks, Islamophobia. I've been thinking hard about this. Why is it so important for these folks that are encouraging other people in the name of their religion to come and stab retired lieutenants that are now working as airport security guards in the neck in the name of a religious dogma? Why is it so important for them to shout, but Islamophobia, not all, and it's the religion of peace? Well, one of the most effective things we can do to influence society is to shame folks that are doing wrong, is to shame them, to make fun of them, to tell them they're bad, to say, we do not accept this. Don't you remember school, the dunce cap, you know, they put you in the corner, me in the corner with a dunce cap on, and maybe make you read something in front of the class with a dunce cap. It's to shame you so that you don't want to do that again. There were cases when I was young where it never happened to me, but I'd seen folks get paddled right in front of the class. You didn't want that. Not only did the paddling sting, but it was humiliating. Shaming is something that is good if used in the right way. It's not a bad thing. Negative punishment, and you'll hear me talk about positive and negative punishment. Remember, when I say positive punishment, think of a plus sign. Positive punishment is when you add something to. So a jail sentence for breaking and entering, that's positive punishment. You've added jail time to this person. A headache going away because you've taken an aspirin. Negative punishment because something has been taken away. You are now short something that you once had. And shaming is this form of positive punishment that puts a feeling into someone. So what's happening now is they have this feeling, and the feeling is, I've not been that great of a person. Yes, this is the tactics they use. They find a young man that maybe has a problem in their mind with sleeping with girls, or in their mind has a problem with alcohol. Whatever it is they say that's going against the Quran, and that they should stop. And then they tell them the only way out of this is if, well, not the only way, but if you're going to continue, you're going to hell. So if you want the easy way out, swear allegiance to Allah again, go down here, blow yourself up, kill some people. You're going to have 72 virgins. There's the end of your problem with girls. You have 72 virgins. Apparently they stay virgins. I don't know if that means no stupid. Anyway, I don't want to get off topic. So they use shaming to recruit these people, to say that, you know, this is how you get out of this, you know, alive, so to speak. You get to go to, what do they call it, man? You get to go to heaven, whatever their version of heaven is. And I mean, my boy told me about it because he grew up over there, and they believe they lay on this bed and there's a tree there, and anything they can think of, the tree grows it. They never have to get up. They're in a reclined position. They have their 72 virgins. And boy, it sounds like a boring life to me. Pretty soon the tree thing will get old. So they use shaming. You've been bad. You've done this. And now there's only one way out. And that one way out that we can think of is if you off yourself, taking as many of the infidels with you as you can. That will grant you your pass to Valhalla. And you can have your 72 virgins. Why are we being stifled and muzzled and not allowed to say, this is terrible? Your religion is in a place right now that it needs reformation. What you've been taught is evil and wrong. This is not good. And why? Okay, somebody inevitably is going to say, well, but it's not all of them. Not only is it not all of them, you know, the majority of them don't really go here. You know, this, that, and the other thing. All I can say is, look, 88% was one of the higher numbers that I've seen. 85% was one of the lower numbers. Somewhere between 85 and 90% of all Muslims, including the ones in the Pacific Islands, including the ones that are causing so much trouble in the Philippines, obviously. But 85 to 90% of them, even though they say they would not engage in jihad, holy war, or Hezbollah, holy energy, but they were all for it. And yes, they'd support it with their aid and their succor. And we don't believe in giving aid and succor to the enemy. We don't think that's a good thing. So they use shame to get them in. Why can't we say this is shameful? You folks that say you're part of the vast majority of Muslims that don't think that this is good, but yet you support it with your money, your prayers, your respect toward it, your active connivance in saying that it's okay, that's bad. In fact, it's so bad, we're going to shame you to your face. We're not going to go to your shops. We're not going to buy your falafel. We're not going to buy your shawarma. We're not going to eat your couscous. We're not going to have anything to do with you. What you're doing is a shameful thing. Well, there's a reason for it. I can't put my finger right on who or why, but for some reason, folks, there's something that is happening that is trying to take away the Western culture. It's just as simple as that. Call me a conspiracy theorist. You know, call me an insane lunatic. It won't be the first time, and I'm certain it won't be the last. But I believe that if this entity that wants these things to happen, that wants you to not do anything that would be Islamophobic. In other words, wow, I can't believe all these Muslims are stabbing people and running over them with a car. And then you have folks compare, well, there's this many by white alt-rights and whatnot. No, there is no way to even compare acts of terror from, you know, the alternative right. I don't even know what that is. Or from white supremacists, or even though you can add the Black Panthers, you can add any of these things you want. There's nothing compares to them. These people are worldwide right now, and they are actively trying to kill people that do not agree with them. To me, that's worse than CNN. I mean, you have CNN, they just don't usually have somebody on there that disagrees with them. What they do, they shout them down, or their satellite feed gets cut. Well, they're really good at that at CNN, the satellite feed getting cut. I mean, that happens so much that you got to start wondering, are they just, and yes, Captain Colepile, the Flint Attack is what I started talking about. But, you know, to me, it's deeper than this. It's the idea that they don't want us to use shame to help these people assimilate by saying, this is a shameful thing you're doing. If you want to be part of the group, learn the language, learn about our history, you know, start to be an American. And then in 8-10 years, which is what it used to take, sure, you can be an American. If you've been a good citizen, you can. If not, you can't. And if you're here, you got to go if you ain't supposed to be here. They do it to Germans. They do it to English. An Englishman can't come here and has a work visa. Now don't want to go back. They'll deport them. Oh, but if you come from south, a Canadian can't either. But if you come from south of the border, you're an undocumented immigrant. And don't give me because of the continent thing, because the Canadians are on the continent. Give me a break. And you could say, well, they're white. No, there's Native American Canadians, whatever. There's indigenous Canadians. They can't come either. And it's only these, there is a reason for it. So let me fast forward to what I was speaking of. Can't you see that if this continues and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, there will be another outcry that will make the outcry after 9/11 seem like a whimper, a fart, and a noisemaker, a whistle in the wind. It'll make it seem like nothing. And people say, please, Mr. Government, please save us, make us secure. We will sacrifice all of our liberties for security so that we know we won't get stabbed in the neck or have beloved uncle, father, husband Jeff, Lieutenant Jeff, stabbed in Flint. Well, anything. And man, you know, eventually, folks, if that happens and we give up all of our liberties, they can implement any damn thing they want. It'd be too late for the free way of life. I fear for folks like myself, like the Youper. They don't want people to be free and independent. They don't want you growing your own food. They don't want you storing any food. I just seen that Feinstein wants to limit the amount of cash anybody can have. They don't want you, you know, there used to be $1,000 bill in this country, but they didn't like it that you could have a stack like that. It was, you know, $1 million. So they cut it back to the 100. Isn't the $50, the 50 euro note the highest that you can get in Europe, and the 50 pound note the highest you can get in Great Britain? They don't want people carrying around a lot of money. Why? Well, they can say, we don't want clandestine operations going on. We don't want people funding things through the black market, whatever that may be. Whatever. It doesn't matter. There's many people that need to conduct their business with cash. And in the old days when I was young, the deal was, you know, don't break the law. But if you do and you get away with it, well, you got away with it. Now they're trying to make it so if we think you've done it, you're guilty. What about this person? I don't even know his name. This stabber in Flint. I don't even know his name. They tell Jeff, they'd say that the police officer's name that was stabbed, but now they're not even giving his name, because if you knew it was Mohammed El, then you would say, well, obviously it's a Muslim. Of course he shouted Allahu Akbar. They're trying to say that was alleged. He allegedly shouted Allahu Akbar. I'm going to take another quick 5 and maybe give the Britisher another second to swing in. Probably plop this out here and give everybody like 15 minutes that might want to come on. In fact, while I'm out taking this little break and the music's playing, if you're out here and listening and you want to come in and give your 2 cents on this, just press 1 so I know you're there. And then if it's possible and I have your information somewhere else, I'll just send you the link somewhere else. Here you go, folks. This is Golly Music, a song called Conspiracy. Enjoy.
Politicians doing great, just be patient, have faith. Global warming so real, to the top gasoline. So true, so true. Found me through. Many fingers pointing me, yelling just conspiracy. And I'm just out of box, still sound of Stevie Fox. At the end I wanna say, we just need to sit and pray. Hit me like a rocky, true to be a monkey. It's not logical, oceans on the ball. Staring like a moon in my AG balloon. Overseas, magic over gravity. Welcome to the hood. Reality of Mollywood. Welcome to the hood. Reality of Mollywood. The biggest crime is in a bank. Call it just a money prank. But these men working still free. Folks are calling misery. So true. So true. Only you. Moon is acting very strange, falling out of sun range. Building tons of concrete, kicking nature to defeat. At the end I wanna say, we just need to sit and pray. Hit me like a rocky, true to be a monkey. It's not logical, oceans on the ball. Staring like a moon in my AG balloon flying over. Magic over gravity. Welcome to the hood. Reality of Hollywood. Welcome to the hood. Reality of Hollywood. So true, yeah. Only you. From a monkeys to the space, call it just a human race. Kids are dying from disease on the bottom of the list. At the end, I wanna say, we just need to sit and pray. Hit me like a rocket, true to being a monkey. It's not logical, oceans on the ball. Staring like baboon in my aging balloon. Over sea, magic over gravity. Welcome to the hood. Reality of Hollywood. Welcome to the hood. Reality of Hollywood. Welcome to the hood. Welcome to the hood. Reality of Hollywood. I hope you get what you need.
Oh, that was fun. I do like that little. I keep wanting to call them a band, but it's actually called Golly Music. How you doing, Dop? What's going on, man? All right. Well, he'll join us momentarily, I'm sure. When you can or you want to, Dop, just speak up. I know that you've been on vacation. I don't know if you've had your mic hooked up, but I didn't hear nothing. Just been talking about this terror attack, whatever you want to call it, this knifing by someone that they're not naming, and they've made sure that they pointed out that they had a Canadian passport and that they were from Quebec, and they could be fifth generation Quebecer, but if they were turned, if they converted to Islam and then listened to the imams, well, they'd probably think it was okay to blow themselves up. Oh, and Dop was here and gone. He may be, oh, there he's back again. Yeah, there you go. Let me get my headphones on. I'll mute myself until then, sir.
Okay, so hello and thanks for having me back. Yeah, I've been on vacations. I've been enjoying myself quite a lot. And yep, it feels good to be back with the old crew. So, thanks for inviting me. What's the subject for today? I see that you started with the Flint Attack.
Well, that's probably about what it's going to be. I might stay on for another 10 or 15 minutes. This is what's been on my mind. I mean, this is only 160 miles south of me.
Mm-hmm.
It's only about 80, 90 miles away from Dearborn, Michigan, the highest concentration of Muslims in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened you'd have to know this state. I mentioned earlier, just to be brief, that even in the 20s, black folks were migrating up to Michigan in droves to work for General Motors, to work for Ford, to work for Chrysler, to work on the assembly lines. And we have a long history. My stepdad worked for General Motors for 38 years and retired. And he had black friends, white friends back by the 80s at this time. Any race you could name. There were people in there that spoke little English because they only spoke Polish. There were people in there that spoke little English because they spoke German or you name it. And everyone got along and was happy to have a good job and lived in neighborhoods close to each other. If you were in Flint, Michigan right now, you'd see what I'm saying. The north side of Flint and the west side of Flint is a very mixed. You don't say, oh, we're in the black side of town now. Because everybody's there. It's just town. You can say we're in the bad side of town if you're on the west side or the north side. So you can say we're in the bad side of town, but you wouldn't associate with any race or ethnicity. And that's why this is bothering me. They're now bringing it to a state where we allow them to have the largest population and don't even bust them for not selling homosexuals wedding cakes, Dop. We don't, and they won't. But we let them be themselves. And so that's kind of what I've been talking about. But I've been here by myself just rambling and editorializing. I'd like to have your opinion on this, but anything you want, mate. It's good to have you back, Dop. I've missed you.
Well, let me ask you first, do we know anything about the identity of the attacker at the Flint airport?
The only thing that they're saying, and I looked earlier, is that first they wouldn't say anything. And I was like, I told my wife, I was like, this guy shouted Allahu Akbar or something. Now it's come out that he allegedly, in other words, people around there heard him say Allahu Akbar before he stabbed the guy. And they released Jeff, I'm not going to remember his last name. I'll pull the article back up if you want me to. And in fact, I'll just pull that up real quick while I'm telling you this. So, so go ahead.
Meanwhile, I just wanted to quote something that's supposedly named Coulter's Law. So it dictates that the longer it takes for the media to identify the shooter, or in this case, attacker, the less likely he is white and Christian.
And that's Collier's Law, you said? What was the name of that?
Coulter's, as in
Coulter's. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and now they actually have a picture of Lieutenant Jeff Neville. I'll share this with you, Dop.
You mean the victim of the stabbing?
Yes, sir. They have a picture of him, but I haven't looked at this article yet. I do not believe that they're giving out the name. And this is BuzzFeed, so I can almost guarantee. I just popped up the first thing it can, so I can almost guarantee they're not going to give out the name. So it says right here, a police officer was stabbed in the neck at Bishop Airport, International Airport in Flint, Michigan on Wednesday. It's actually in Burton, Michigan, folks. In a statement released on Wednesday afternoon, the FBI said it was too early to determine if the attack was an act of terrorism. Then it tells his name, Lieutenant Jeff Neville, that he's in critical condition. I believe they have upgraded it to stable. In a written statement, the FBI said that the one suspect was in custody in connection with this morning's stab. In other words, he's the one that stabbed. And is being questioned by law enforcement. The FBI said it's still determining the nature and motive for this attack. We are aware of reports that the attacker made statements immediately prior or while attacking the officer, but it's too early to determine the nature. Now they're just taking out what the statement is, because they were saying, Dop, and I'll look for that article. I will find it and show it to you. People heard him say Allahu Akbar as he stabbed the man in the neck. And only thing that they're telling us is that he's from Canada, had a Canadian passport, and from Quebec. So like you said, the longer it takes, we know.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that basically the media would not want to break their own narrative of Muslims integrating into Western society and being this religion of peace. Yeah, I'm terribly sorry about this case. It's very sad that somebody was stabbed, especially in the course of duty when he was tasked with protecting us all. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch how the media try to weasel their own way out of it. Because at this point, at least it's been reported that something's happened, and I believe at least enough people will try to dig more details on their own. Besides, there is also all those YouTube channels, and there is also all those people on Twitter and other social media that will be spreading full information without hiding who's behind it, what were the motivations, and all of that.
I'm trying right now, but like I said, I'm looking back. I've pulled up now 4 articles, and what's bothering me is if they actually have taken an article down, because one, let you know that there were people there close that heard this man yell Allahu Akbar, and then stab folks. So, here it was at NBC. So again, Michigan airport stabbing. I'm going to skip down to the meat of this as I share it with you, Dop, so everybody can see what I'm reading here. Because I've read this already, but here you go. Law enforcement officials said the suspect is from Quebec and has a Canadian passport. Now reports and statements immediately and prior to the attack, but it's too. So they have. I just read this earlier, and it said he allegedly said Allahu Akbar, and now it looks like they've actively. Man, I should have screenshotted that. I really should have. I got to start doing that, because it does not say now that anything about that.
If you paste the link to me, I will try to look up the older version of the article. Maybe we can compare it with the current version. That could be informative.
The funny thing is that this is the same one. When I seen it was NBC News, I was right away relatively excited, because I remember that's the one. Well, and I could remember wrong. So let me go back in my history again here and see if I can pull up the one where it actually said that people allegedly heard him saying Allahu Akbar. I don't know why they would lie about something like that, but you never know. I imagine you can.
Oh, This is what media do. They lie by omission. They really are masters of that. It's a lie that's pretty hard to catch, in that unless you are perfectly aware what's actually has happened, you will not notice it.
And this, so I might have been wrong. This is it. Click on Detroit and NBC News, Feds look, and right here, look how they word this doppelganger. Canadian-born suspect shouted, Allahu Akbar. So they're trying, like you said, by omission to say, well, he's Canadian, so don't try to think it had anything to do with Islamic, you know, fundamental insanity. But what else? What could it be?
Yeah, this is curious. Perhaps you missed it, but on the NBC News, in the second paragraph, we can read in the current version, the attacker allegedly shouted Allahu Akbar.
Yeah,
so it's there in NBC. Okay, so yeah, allegedly. Yeah, I know, weasel word.
Oh, so I missed it in that first article, the one I sent you. It was there.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, I guess, like I said, that's why I'm glad you looked at it, and because I'm looking for that to happen. So sometimes I will probably see things that aren't there because I'm looking for it to be omitted. It's still of the 25 articles I can pull up, I think 3 of them even mention this.
Look, the sad truth is that if it's not in this case, it will be in the next one and the next one and next one. It will be there.
Yeah, no kidding.
It won't stop after this one attack, especially as basically any reasonable preventive measures would take a long time to actually take effect. It's not like you can just, I don't know, round up some people and be done with it. It's actually the solution to all of this will take a long time.
And you should be able to post something now, Very Blue. It's probably why one of the reasons you see so many wrenches. I think once I make somebody a moderator, they can post links. I don't like that folks can't post links. Hi, Space Bitch. Good to have you here.
Yep. It takes moderator range to be able to post links.
All right. Well, he said here's one. There it is. He just sent it to me. So let me pop this
let's
up.
See.
And you never know. So this is from Michigan Live, usually a pretty good source. I was actually reading some stuff from them earlier, but maybe, they have to be careful because there's something called libel. So I can understand waiting until you have all the information, being careful. But once you got it, let us know. So Flint Airport stabbing probed as terrorism, reports claim. So there sounds like they're changing their rhetoric now. Flint, Michigan, the FBI is investigating this morning's stabbing of an airport police officer as possible terrorism, according to a report from an NBC affiliate. Well, we just read that. The report claims that the Canadian-born, still they're not going to stop that, but shouted Allahu Akbar before stabbing Jeff Neville multiple times. They keep giving us, this is making me upset, Dop, so I'm going to calm down and just keep reading. The claims are attributed to NBC News' investigative journalist Tom Winter. The state police have confirmed that the FBI is investigating the attack. And so that's the width and breadth of that.
Yep. It's a very short article, but at least gets to the meat of the case. And frankly, I like this kind of reporting, not trying too hard to editorialize, just reporting the facts.
Yeah, there's no reason.
In local paper.
Yeah, there's absolutely no reason to sensationalize something like this.
Yeah, well, let's not forget that basically the terrorists want to be sensationalized, and they want to have a lot of their actions to have a lot of echo in the society. We shouldn't grant them that.
Yeah. Well, and no, I got to say, Very Blue, Mark read the article, and the one that I was speaking, in fact, I'll link it out here. The one that I was speaking of, I just didn't read it. I just didn't see it. I was skimming through it quickly, and I didn't see where they claim that he shouted Allahu Akbar. They did put that, doppelganger read. And here's one from Click on Detroit, and I'll give you the link to this other one too. So, but don't get me wrong. They do change stuff, just like this warm beer, auto warm beer. Who was it? Huffington Post or BuzzFeed? It was one of these. They published this thing before that was like, well, Otto Warmbier found out one place on earth where his white privilege card doesn't work. And then they just bashed this kid and said he should have watched what he did and he shouldn't have messed with the poster. I've seen the video. It's very grainy. I don't think it was him. I don't think he touched any poster. And now they've changed it. They've moved the headline down. They changed some words. It's
terrible because they are using a personal tragedy. Somebody died, and in very painful circumstances of that, they're using it to score cheap political points. I hate this kind of journalism.
Me too. In the old days, it was who, what, where, and when. And then sometime in the late 80s, early 90s, they really started putting a fifth one in there. Why? And it's not their place. It's not a reporter's place unless they're a commentator, I guess. But it's not, especially a newspaper, reporter's place to do the why. It's who, what, where, and when. That's what you write in there. And I'm with you. I like it succinct and easy. Keep the fear porn out of it.
I'm not quite sure if that's necessarily the case, in that the good old days were as good as we remember them.
Oh, no. Don't get me wrong, too. So thanks for that point, because let me qualify it. The media was just as corrupt, maybe even worse then. But they didn't openly say, give the why. Now they're openly saying, no, give the spin, do the spin.
That makes sense. I wonder if the transition has anything to do with the TV news being and TV programming being a major force back then, because TV as the medium requires a slightly different format. You basically have to keep time slots occupied. You cannot just present a very short one and be done with it. Instead, if you don't have enough news, you have to make up something, and opinions are very easy to make up. You can talk opinions as long as you want, even when waiting for a third panelist, for example.
Well, that's what this show is for, Doc. That's what this show is for. But you and I don't sit here and claim to have any answers to anything. We always claim, hey, this is what we think, this is what we feel. And guess what else? Neither one of us shape policy for any nation that I'm aware of, sir.
Yeah,
and so
that's true.
What's going on now? These quote unquote reporters are shaping policy through the pen. And
they are doing it both ways. In one way, they are shaping the popular opinion or popular consent of the voting base. On the other hand, they also influence the government and politicians, basically the way they perceive the opinion of the public. In that, for example, suppose some politicians wanted to gauge public opinion on some subject. Do you think they will raise an election or poll, or do you think they will turn to journals and read what's written in the journals?
Yeah, we know the answer to that. If you're asking me, they'll turn to the journals. They turn to they want to know what to think, so they turn to the people telling them what to think.
Yep. And frankly, this is one of the things that I pretty much blame the current, still ongoing craze of left-wing politics around Europe, around Canada, and other countries. In that, basically, it's all those journalists trained in the quite Marxist universities that present their own opinions as popular opinions, and this is what influences politicians, in my opinion.
Yeah, more than anything. Well, and plus, you got to figure it goes much deeper than even what I'm going to add. But the people with the pen, the fourth estate, if you will, they control what folks think that have the money, that give the donations. So they can make something being popular, right? And that's the purse strings. This guy now I'm going to forget his name. It was Handel here in Georgia. Handel she won, and she was going against this guy. Oh, what's his last name? I'm going to slip it. But it was now the most money ever raised and spent for a seat in the House of Representatives. They got to go up every 2 years, brother. $50 million. And this one guy that lost, this liberal, he was given, what was it? I think they said she spent $18 million. So what's that leave left? Other $24 million he spent. Or no, 34. I want to say $34 million. $34 million. Might have been more. My math's not so great, as you can see. Lost almost all that money came from Martha's Vineyard in the Silicon Valley. They're just nowhere near Georgia.
Well, yeah, funny I should mention Silicon Valley. Basically, I usually browse one website, which is a news aggregator and strongly connected to technology. And you can see there is very heavy left slant in the opinions of typical people from Silicon Valley, which is, in a way, it's strange, because they, on one hand, they call themselves to be those modern capitalists and modern, basically, entrepreneurs. On the other hand, the Silicon Valley as such does depend to a large extent on government contracts for various things. Government does contract a lot to California.
When they go for this communistic ideal and talk about how terrible the rich are, they are the rich. And yes, the finer print just got me set my math straight. It's 33 million. This guy, Asif, spent. Thank you so much, finer print. I can always count on somebody in the chat to know more about this stuff than I do.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of YouTube streaming. Basically, as soon as we are wrong on something, people, or at least missing information, people on the chat will point it out, will correct us, and this is why we can really call it social media.
Hey, you just got back, so nothing like throwing you in feet first. I think somebody's here for eggs. I'll be back in less than 5 minutes, Dop. Just give me a second. You got this.
Oh, no, you're killing me.
I can play a song, but I got to go see because I know they're probably pulling out.
Please play a song.
Talk to him. I'll be right back. I'll let Dead Air be here. You're going to be fine, Dop. You fucking host this thing. I'll be right back.
Oh, come on. Now I know that I angered Ogre somehow. Recently, I guess that may have been this troll song that I linked him on the other audition. Oh well, I guess. Let's see what else is in the comments. You never wrong, doppelganger. Captain Coilpile, please, that's a nice one. Space Bitch says Mark versus the world, 3 minutes. Well, I guess, yeah, I can perhaps go insane in 3 minutes, thanks to having handled, quote-unquote, the world. Finer print, Russian accent. No, that's not Russian accent. Not quite. And then we have Razor Edgelord. Tell us about your life, mate. I have no life, really. I have nothing to say. It's just, I'm this guy with a microphone, that's it.
I actually remember Doppelganger being, and yes, see, that was just like ripping off a Band-Aid. They were actually there with their $2. I had the dozen, boom, boom. But
awesome.
I remember you being at a party, a social gathering, and you actually came on the show. you were on the show giving commentary while you're at some cocktail party. I thought that was the coolest damn thing that ever happened on the show, if you want to know the truth. I was like, wow.
Frankly, the people at the party were like pretty much one generation younger than me. So how long can I how long can I handle such people? I can admire them for various things, but we aren't exactly on the same, we don't speak exactly the same language. Don't get me wrong, they are very good, young, dynamic, and forward-thinking people. I really admire them. But yeah, not exactly the same thing.
Well, and you know what? There's no reason to justify anything. I just thought it was funny. It's something that I would do. You know, if I was like, well, this has been fun, but at this point, I'm a little distracted with what's going on around here. Oh, there's a live stream going on.
Oh yeah, sounds like fun.
I enjoy it. And right now, hell, we're at a little party, mate. You know, I'm rolling a spliff, and there's 15 people listening to us now fart in the wind. But man, I was watching Lionel Nation. Everybody's like, I love the guy. Please don't get me wrong. I watch a lot of his live streams. I admire him. I've been actually using him as kind of like a mentor, even though he doesn't know it, and trying to adopt some of his style. But man, he was on there and he was just like, he said he was no, he was making farting sounds. I can't even remember who he was talking about because I was laughing so hard. But he said, these guys finally got together and was like, oh, I've had a lot of gas. I've got a lot of built up. He's like, oh, I've had that one in there for a while. And he is mocking these people. And yes, he's a wordsmith. He's a former prosecutor and attorney for many years. He's been on the radio since the 80s. He is. But man, when he wants to just go a little nuts, nobody can do it quite like Lionel. I don't know if you even watch his live streams, Dot, but if you do, did you see his late night live stream last night?
I believe I haven't seen even a single one of his live stream. I've just seen a few of his videos some time ago. Not quite sure why I'm not getting notifications from him. Perhaps
he does them real random too. He even said at the close of the one today that it's like he does. There's no schedule for it. Apparently, something similar to what happened, with you happened last night with him. He was at some, get together, some soiree, if you will. And when he got home, it was so boring that he got online for an hour, and it was one of the best streams I'd ever seen him do. I mean, the guy he's second to none, and I don't ever see anybody on his show with it. It's him and a camera, and man, he can just speak eloquently and intelligently, at least on every topic that he chooses, which I guess makes it a little easier. But the guy is something else. He's a dynamo of information. I really like him.
Did you mention that he used to be a prosecutor?
Yeah, prosecutor. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so basically I believe one of the aspects of lawyers' training and education is training in public speaking.
Well,
They
of course,
have to be able to speak really, really well.
Well, and they have mock trials, mock court, of course, and all that. But man, I would say in my experience, I have a really good lawyer, Scott Isles, and he is extremely eloquent. Can speak on. I mean, but in my experience, they're about 1 in 6 at the most are that way. The other ones, man, I meet so many lawyers that are stuttering buffoons. I wouldn't want them to give a final summation for me if it was a dog bite case, let alone any kind of criminal thing. And so, yes, you could look at it like, because they are all trained, but they're not all good at it. It's different than, let's say, because I was a preacher. I guess to some effect still am, but to be a preacher, you have to be a good public speaker. If you're not, you will get fired. I mean, the people that come and pay your salary actively every Saturday or Sunday, depending upon your day of worship here in this country, whatever day, they're actively paying you. If you stink and put everybody to sleep, unless they go to sleep, they're not going to pay you anymore. Well, you can be a lawyer and be the most horrible speaker, but if you got the other end right and all your paperwork's good, your evidence is good, you get people off, that's all that really matters. And some of the biggest morons I've ever met, I wonder how in the hell did they ever pass the bar? Because that's one of the toughest tests ever did. I believe Phil is still working on the bar, man.
Can I say nepotism? At least in my country, lawyers are to a large extent a family tradition, and it's much easier to get through if you have family connections. So maybe, just maybe.
Oh, you better believe it. Bogan Munns and Munns is a big one around here. And oh, man. Yes, nepotism, sir. Absolutely. And it's not right, especially in that case, man. When it comes to politics and law, we shouldn't have a lot of nepotism in there. That's how you get unqualified, incompetent people. Oh, and yeah, folks, this has nothing to do with the stabbing. But what do you want? Dop's just back from Colot and probably had a good time. I don't know how the trip is. What are you going to some kind of cryostasis or something for the journey, or is there a portal?
Without going into technical details, actually, my life is much sped up. So you perceive this as 2 weeks, whereas for me,
It was just a day?
It was a year in paradise.
Oh, a year! I see that. Well, maybe one day you'll let me join you. I'm not sure if our atmospheres would be compatible, but maybe I'd give it a shot. It's so good to have you back. To me, it's so funny because between yourself and the Britisher, there's this big thing. I heard when I come back, you're already answering questions about your accent and whatnot. And so there's this big debate. Where's Doppelganger from? When everybody knows you're from fucking Planet Colot. And then, who's the Britisher? I've heard Chinaman and his accent sound. I mean, I've heard it all. When they don't realize that he is an MI6 robot constructed in 1968. I mean, he's a machine. He drinks 10W40 like it's water.
Yeah, that would explain things, all right. I believe, Britisher is a pretty nice case. For me, he does sound very British, maybe even a bit too British. But for people from Britain, supposedly, I believe he mentioned a few times that they end up asking him, "You're not from around here," or something to that effect. Right.
Yeah. Well, as he explains his accent, it's this way. He has a lack of regional dialect. So his the way he speaks is just British. So anywhere he goes, they don't hear whatever that little twist is the way they speak it, whether it be Cockney, whatever it may be, whether it's Welsh or Scott, whatever. You don't have that. And so then that's the big debate. And apparently there's a lot of people around the world, and as his fame is growing and growing, and he gets thousands of views now of thing, and he's got, over 10,000 daggone subscribers. There's more people that are recognizing, I don't recognize where this came from in England. And he's explained it, so I'm not going to explain it right now. If you want to just bother him with it again, he's only answered it about 50 times. He'll probably answer it again. I miss him. He's taking a break right now, too.
In a way, it's sad in that he is a person of brilliant mind and also of incredibly deep knowledge. And yet people ask him every so often, where is your accent from? As if that really did matter all that much. I mean, obviously, he's been around the world, at least to some extent. His knowledge is incredible. The way he recently answered the question on the Roman Empire and the way he was able to go into details of that, this boggles my mind.
Oh man, let me give you the
Guy is
link.
incredible erudite.
He's very erudite. That's for damn sure. I'll tell you what, though, I'm going to send you this link. I want to make sure that it doesn't have any of his real information. I'm almost positive it doesn't. But this is the Britisher's website that goes back before he was the persona of the Britisher. He was programmed to run another function by MI6 at this time, and I don't think he was quite on YouTube and had this upgraded programming yet. But his part of his programming is to be very knowledgeable about the Roman Empire. And I made a mistake, just Monday, and someone asked, well, how does this Muslim thing compare to what the Romans did with the ancient Greeks? And if you probably know, the Greeks like welcomed the men to learn things and to to math and whatnot, and the Romans kept coming in, and then they killed Archimedes, man, while he was just trying to work out a fucking problem. And he wouldn't go in for that, though. I mean, was the point? He was like, he steered it right away and went to something else about Rome, because you would think he would have been a great senator, man. He would have been a great senator for Rome, because you don't want to go and besmirch Rome or the Roman Empire. He will find a way to tell you're wrong and that they were the greatest empire that ever was and probably ever will be. So check that out, man. If you got that, Dob, I'm sure you'll appreciate it, man. He's got information there, the founding, the kings, early republic. I mean, you can see all that there. And some of the buttons are
trove of information.
Yeah. I got to ask him before I just release it out to the wolves. The wolves, like Romulus and Remus. Oh, there's the Britisher. He busted me.
And the man himself.
Hey, Britt, I was just wondering if I could...
Did I just hear Romulus and Remus?
Yeah, Romulus and Remus. Weren't they abandoned by their mother and raised by wolves and then came up to Tiberias to found Rome?
Along those lines, yes. I mean, there are sort of various there are various sort of flavors to it. So, for example, I believe the Latin word for she-wolf was also used for prostitute. Oh. So, in fact, it could have been a play on words.
So the big question is, there's a website that I think was done by you when your programming didn't run toward YouTube, as we were saying. Do you want that to be shared with anybody? Is it
no? I think we'll keep that to ourselves for now. Okay,
no worries. Okay. And I looked through it. It's just some good information. But I kind of wanted to know how it is that you live now over 1,000 years after Rome was much of anything, and you still feel the need to stand up for the Republic as if you were a senator.
Well, as I say, as I was saying to you the other day, it's I do at times condemn Rome for its behavior, but in many cases, Rome gets a bad press because, for example, the Christians wish to put a spin on things, which, sorry, my throat is a real mess at the moment. You hear a lot of things like, the Roman Empire fell because of lead poisoning and things like that, and people that believe that you're 1 or 2 generations after Nero, it was already finished. Yeah, in that regard, I can be quite combative in favor of the Romans at times.
What about what happened at Masada?
Masada. Yeah, I mean, how do you exactly sort of quantify it? I mean, the Romans were tremendously impressed.
Well, I understand they were impressed, but they also sequestered this small group of Jews on the top of this tableland.
I mean, they besieged them. They besieged the Zealots, yes.
Yeah.
Because the Zealots had been part of a revolt against Rome.
What do you think would have happened if they would have surrendered?
It depends when you surrender with the Romans. So basically, I don't know if you've ever heard about the expression, the ram has touched the gate.
Yeah, so in other words, it's too late.
Yeah, so basically, once we're showing force, once we've proved to you in a way that we're stronger than you and we're coming to get you, that isn't really the time when you can surrender. But as such, the Romans took quite a lot of territory without force.
Which I believe would go to show that these tactics worked, in that it really did forewarn the potential future targets that it's better to surrender, right?
Well, the Romans in that regard were a completely new breed. They took warfare to a completely different level. They fought wars along the lines of, we will beat you. We don't care how long it will take. We don't care how many of us will die. But we will beat you. And we will keep coming back at you until you are beaten. And that was something that the ancient world didn't really know. Prior to that, you had battles, and then the loser and the winner kind of came to terms. The Romans didn't play that game anymore. They were kind of, without wanting to plug the game, they were really into total war. As in, we will throw the kitchen sink at you, and we will destroy you. And that was also the case if they were attacked. So basically, they would not merely repel the opponent. They would repel the opponent, and then they would go after them. That's how the Roman Empire really grew to its size. Most of the time, they were actually reacting to someone who had had a go at them.
Okay, so having said that, do you believe it was mostly caused by their own perceived need to uphold and build an opinion of invincible conquerors, or was it mostly about the internal politics, in that once they basically convinced everybody that they need to attack some particular state or whatever, that they needed to deliver on the promise?
Well, I mean, the politics in that regard could be extremely complicated. I mean, you can, you can write books on that. But in a way, it was both the leadership who needed to prove to the Roman people that Rome couldn't be messed with, and the fact that Rome as an entity needed to prove to foreign powers that it could not be messed with. In that regard, politics hasn't really changed that much since then. But I mean, the Americans, if you've got an American president who backs down to a foreign enemy and doesn't go to war, there will inevitably be politicians in the House of Congress that call him a wimp.
Right.
At the same time, if he then goes and clobbers some other country, there will be other countries, and no doubt there will be other politicians within his country who then accuse him of being an imperialist. So in that regard, that side of politics hasn't really changed in that regard compared to the Romans. That the Romans were the superpower of the ancient world, and America is today, and you see very clear reflections between the two.
And that would be the case why you are an ardent student of both the Rome and the current superpower of America.
Oh, I don't think he cares much about America. But I don't want to wear your voice out too much, Brett, and I do want to kind of see what you think about it. I spoke of it pretty long earlier. But
just to say, the reason I take an interest in America is that I'm very keen to see that once we get our colonies back, they're still in a reasonable condition.
I don't think. I really think that, I mean, when you consider it, being that a large majority of the population here has some roots in England, and at least in their ways we do speak the language. Man, I mean, I think it would be a mistake for someone to attack England in an all-out war. I don't really care who it is, even the United States, anybody, unless they were ready to just level the freaking island and start afresh and anew with a wasteland. Same goes for here. I mean, that's funny, Britisher, but I don't think anybody's going to invade the United States anytime soon. Although you could cripple us from within with like Wilds. I don't know if that's what because you know what? No more songs unless I know they're free on this, because all of Monday's gone. I waited 2 days. They would not let me fool with it. I couldn't download it. Couldn't take the songs out. And I know you didn't do it on purpose, Stop, but it was that cool song. You sent me that dance song. I looked at that for a second, before I played it, was like, oh yeah, surely this can't be copyrighted. Too terrible. Blocked in every country, taken down worldwide. And
I'm
and
truly
so
sorry.
No. And there was another one too, by the way. I played another one. I'd have to look back, but it was blocked in like 79 or 179 countries because I had it on my list, but I had it as blocked, and I've got it. So that's fixed also. But to make the point, that all disappeared. And if you remember, mate, you know, you were like, you're all over the place. You said that to me, and the reason why, whenever I think about what could possibly be back there pulling the strings, what group of people, my mind starts clicking, man. I've read so much of their own literature. I know Adam Weishaupt ran out of Bavaria, born in Ingolstadt. I mean, I don't even have to look this stuff up. I know about the Order of the Illuminati, how they infiltrated the Masons, what they say their agenda is. And so, yeah, well, sometimes when I speak of it, I'll be all over the place. But I haven't even popped this chair yet. That's what, and look, I'm all over the place now. Is that what you're thinking? Oh, Lord, I can say, really, Mr. Ogre? Back to the Bohemian Grove, shall we go, sir? I can feel it coming.
Oh, dear.
Meanwhile,
you can't steal my impression, Brett. You just have to use your normal voice. That's joke theory. No, anyway. So when I start thinking about, I wonder, is this, because now it's here, Britisher, as I've mentioned, we invite the Muslims in, the largest population of Muslims in Dearborn, Michigan. They will not sell gays wedding cakes. Watch Steven Crowder, check it out. You'll see him go try and say he's gay. No way. He goes in there as Stephanie Crowder, where he just puts on a dress, and it's freaking Steven Crowder. You can see he's Steven Crowder. You know what I mean? And anyway, they won't sell him the cake, but we allow him to live here. We don't even sue them out of oblivion into oblivion like we would some Christian doing the same thing. And now this, man, in Flint, Michigan, 80 miles northwest of Dearborn, you know, and I start to wonder, what's the end game with this? I don't think they want us to be Muslims.
So is this, you know, when you sent me the link, I saw some of it. I didn't have much time. I needed to go away. Is that believed to have been a terrorist attack?
Well, since you're here, and I already did it a couple times to refresh anybody that might have jumped in here because you're here now, and yourself, this is an article at MLive, and it's very funny how they word this stuff, Brett. It says, Flint airport stabbing probed as terrorism report claims. It says, Flint, Michigan. The FBI is investigating this morning's stabbing of an airport police officer as possible terrorism, according to a report from an NBC affiliate. The report claims that the Canadian-born, make sure they say that, suspect shouted, Allahu Akbar, before stabbing Jeff Neville multiple times. I automatically see a glaring omission of this human being's name, because they do want to let you know that he's Canadian-born, had a Canadian passport, and was from Quebec. And they keep saying born in Quebec. But they're not going to tell you that his name. There
may be a reason why they're not giving the name away. The same thing happened the case also over here in Britain.
Yeah, but there's no Britisher in this country, brother. Let me tell you how it works. If you've been arrested by the police, especially in a case where people have seen you do it, and it doesn't matter. So you get a DUI, right? Your name is in the newspaper. Boom. As soon as the next print comes out, if you're in Bay City, Michigan, Flint, Michigan, and you get a DUI, I mean, look in the newspaper. Your name's in there.
No, I fully understand that. I'm just saying there may be a kind of like a playbook for how to deal with terrorism.
Well, their way of dealing with it right now is the FBI says that it's too soon to say if it's terror. Doppelganger, you said that it was the Coulter law, which says the longer it takes them to release the name of a suspect in these cases, the more chance of it not being a white Christian. And can I ask you, sir, how long did it take before they released the name of the gentleman that was foolish enough to run his minivan into some worshipers? How long did it take before they released his name?
Not long at all, I believe.
No, Brett, he may know exactly how long.
To be honest, I don't know. I was in bed at the time.
Okay. But so the next morning you did know, though.
Yeah, no. The reason I'm pointing this out, it wasn't just that I was keen to interrupt. No, it's over here when the Manchester bombing happened, they basically pointed to this because there were some leaks in some media, and the police basically got quite annoyed. You may recall that basically somewhere we were sharing. As part of the Five Eyes program, we were sharing with intelligence sources in America, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. And some sources in America leaked it to the media. And like that, it found its way back to Britain. And the police basically got that annoyed that they were basically saying, look, if this continues on, we're not sharing information with anybody anymore, not even with our own intelligence services.
So why would it be okay for them to release the police officer's name? Because he was already on duty there?
If I can just say, the reason they did that was because they knew pretty much, from, within an hour or two, who this guy had been. But then they had the SWAT teams out there crashing into suspects' households in order to try and catch his network if there was one. And what they didn't want is for people who might be tracked to realize that they were already very close to them. Do you understand what I mean? That they were pretty much on their tracks. And
yeah, I do understand that, Roger.
Therefore, they wanted the name kind of kept out of the media. So that may be kind of almost like in the rule book by now, that you keep the name out of the media until you've got a possible network. Now, in the case of this Welsh guy that crashed into the crowd outside Finsbury Mosque, because it was bleedingly obvious that he was not part of a plot, that may well be the reason why they just immediately released the name once they had it. Do you follow my meaning? Oh,
yeah. I got a point to that, though.
Go ahead.
Well, here you go. If they're going, because your point is this, or their point to you that you understand is this, that they don't want the bad guys that are affiliated with this person to know that they know who he is. So they don't think that, okay, if he's part of a plot and Akbar, just whatever, and now he's in custody, you think they don't know if he was part of the plot? That the cops are now coming for, see what I mean?
Oh no, I fully understand, but you don't necessarily know how far out the network goes.
Oh, but brother,
some people might well feel, they don't even know who he is yet. We're fine, and particularly, what matters in the case of terrorism is it's not so much that these people might fear that they get caught. It might be that because they're part of a terror network, if they think that you're closing in on them, they might then go and commit their own terror crime that they've been plotting. So you might in effect trigger them, if you know what I mean.
This is the only thing that needs to happen in that case, is let the reporters report what has happened, report his name, and then the police say, oh, we don't believe, in fact, this would be more believable to me. We don't believe that this suspect, he's just alone, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what they do anyway. I mean, all I can say, Brett, is to what end, and none of it makes sense. Because one of the reasons the IRA was so successful is that if you were going up to see Johnny McClure, Saturday night to talk about getting some black Irish and blowing shit to hell and gone, and they thought you were a narc, they just killed you, man. They just, boom, they just killed you. And we're dealing with people, and I'm only drawing this parallel because they always do, and I guess we are dealing with people that are along the same lines, even religiously connected, by the way. As long as we're dealing with people like this, listen, mate, they've been at this so long, they're probably not just going to pull a chain reaction that makes a lot of problems. Giving us information about who it is so that it's not this idea of, I talked at length earlier, Islamophobia, Britisher. They shout Islamophobia when it's really freedom phobia that these people have. They're making it so it's not right to put the name in the paper when it should already be in there. They're making it so they have to point out that he was Canadian born, but they could say if he was Muslim, couldn't they? If it's a known fact that he's Islam, that he's Muslim, wouldn't it be just as good to say Canadian born Muslim from Quebec?
Alternatively, there might be another chocolate side up to this.
All right.
Because if he's Canadian born, then it's Trudeau's fault.
Hey, when they kill us, when we kill them, they win. Trudeau quote. He's got some goodies, man. He said that. My two favorite is, when you kill them, they win. And then my second, the very close runner up is, sticks and stones may break my bones, but sometimes words can hurt me.
Yes, yeah. That actually was quite painful.
Oh man!
So in that regard, at least with that quote alone, he's correct.
Proven self-correct, yes.
Yeah. No,
because I could see my grandma, man. Anyway, rolling over.
What's interesting in regards to Islamophobia is that we had some chap on the BBC. Now I've looked around. I can't find a clip of him. You know, you don't find a lot of BBC clips on the internet. You know, sort of as much as you find of other media. I think it is because the BBC are quite keen to get stuff taken down. But in this case, you had this academic who was, you know, I mean, you could almost refer to him as a professor of Islamophobia, if you know what I mean. Mm. Now, he was actually white, but he basically started talking about this attack on Finsbury Mosque, this being a sign of a wider problem in British society, and how we all should start asking ourselves whether we are not at least casually Islamophobic. And I just sort of thought, well, hang on a moment.
Please, hang on a moment.
So if a Islamist terrorist blows himself up, the first thing they always tell us is this is not a sign of any wider involvement with the Muslim society. But if someone then flies into a rage, jumps into a van and runs down some Muslims, then we're suddenly told it's a sign of a wider problem in British society.
Oh, man.
So basically, they want to have it both ways. And, you know, that's why I looked whether I could find this online, because it was just the height of hypocrisy. And, yeah, I just found that one tremendously irritating.
Well, I tried to tie it in this way because they're breaking up this Islamophobia, ramming it down us, and that was a great example of one way they do it. And what the end in my mind with this part of it is, if we can't shame them, because right now everybody in Dearborn, Michigan should be going, I'm not going to deal with the Muslims today. I'm not going to buy anything from anybody that's wearing the knife and the robes and stuff. I'm not going to that getting my shawarma today. I'm not going to have any hummus. I ain't going to do it. That's what should be happening right now. And shame them. Go up and say, hey, man, Ahmed, did you notice what happened? How do you feel about that, man? And if they say, oh, you know, well, I would not take part in that, but I do think that it is, you know, a holy word, blah, blah, blah. Well, I ain't buying your stuff anymore. But they take the shaming element out of it. They use the shaming element by saying, look, son, you like women, you sleep with women, and you drink alcohol. Well, if you praise Allah and go and blow yourself up in the pizza toppings or stab a guy in the neck and they kill you, man, you get 72 virgins, all that's forgiven, clean slate, you go to heaven. And but they won't let us use the shaming aspect to let them see we don't accept this. And man, I think that would be our most powerful tool at this time, Britisher. A good outright pranging British style. This, you know, when you see them in the street, one of these, Brit, and you don't even, good morning, Mr. Britisher, and you just put your head up and pedal your bike down the road as if nothing was even said to you. That's a British way to be now. If you're upset with somebody and you want to show them, I don't want nothing to do with you. Anyway.
By the way, can I just point out, I know this is an aside and you won't like me for it, but the guys with the robes and the knife, those are Sikhs.
Oh, I know it, but there's a mixture there, and the Sikhs are actually cool. They're really, really, really cool. If you ask the Sikh with the green knife, usually, if you ask one of those what they thought about this, they'd ask you one question: am I making any money with it, sir? And you'd like, no, you didn't make no money. They actually made anybody that looks like you look like. I want nothing to do with it. Give me $5. You know, that's what you get out of the Sikhs. They know how to make money. They're good business people.
But yeah, no, this is one of the things that the Sikhs frequently get confused for Muslims, and they don't like it because they have beards, they have turbans, and then some of them wear the ceremonial knife. But yeah, the Sikhs are a completely different religion.
Their turbans are very distinctive. The turbans they wear look almost like a helmet that's swaddled forward with somewhat of a peak or point toward the front. And,
yeah, I mean, they kind of seem to be almost like overlapping layers towards the front, don't they?
Yes. And once you see one and you realize, oh, that's a Sikh, it's not very easy to get him confused, you know what I mean? And I should have been more careful with what I said, man. I'm telling you, Britisher, we have to learn to go to every mosque and just shame it out of the neighborhood. Have folk out front with signs saying, you know, we don't want you around here until this ends, until what's coming from your pulpits is don't do this, folks. You could twist these scriptures from the Iran any way you want and make it seem like we should go kill these people and whatnot. But that's not really what Muhammad meant. You know, he wanted us to love each other and not to ever harm. Once they're preaching that, hey, man, you quit waving the sign and, you know, hey, go buy their falafel. And they don't have the Jews make the best falafel. So go buy their shawarma, man. They're good at that. That roasted lamb, it's so good when it's lean. And they got, oh. So in other words, it would hurt me to boycott them. You can see that. But I think there's a time, man. And to me, when they come to Flint, Michigan, from anywhere, unless there is an outrage in the Muslim community over this, that it happened in this state where they're home to so many, so lovingly welcomed into the fold and taken into Father's grand embrace, man, it's time to, don't hurt nobody. Hurt them in the wallet, man. That hurts everybody, British, I guarantee you. Hurt them in the wallet.
At this point, I would like to ask or pose the question to you. To what extent should we really focus on actually shaming all the Muslims because of what some of the Muslims did? Or maybe to what extent should we try to differentiate between Muslims that are trying to fit into Western standards and do
well because you're looking at a I don't think you were here when I was mentioning this, because you're looking at such a small window of people, because 85 to 90, depending upon what study or poll you look at, not a poll, they usually do this in studies, that will say which of the Muslims are in active connivance, saying, no, I wouldn't do it myself, but yeah, it's good that they did it. It's a huge percentage of them that are going along with this stuff. And so, hey, the other 15%, they need to get to work on their kind. Haven't y'all ever been in a situation, Britisher and Doppelganger, where you were the member of a group, be it a class or any group, and then there's one bad actor that could be a good actor, but they're a bad actor, or for whatever reason, they cannot be removed very easily. And so the superior comes to the group and says, listen, folks, I've done everything I can do to help bad actor X. The problem is you people are unwilling to help me let this. Haven't y'all been in that situation where the whole class got punished or the whole group got punished in some way or another because one? That's what I'm talking about, people. It's not something that we need to go, oh, what up? I'm sorry, Dop, I don't want to mock anybody, but it's not something that we need to go, oh, what about the other? What about the others? They need to get on the bandwagon too. They need to say, no, this is not right, and it's so not right. Look what's happening to me now because I'm a part of this. And I believe me, folks, I didn't say nothing about concentration camps. I didn't say nothing about, like with the Asians here or anybody that looked Japanese. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying, don't do business with folks that are Muslim. Don't invite them into if you're a real estate agent, don't sell them a house. Hell, they get away with not giving birthday cakes to gays. Just like I said, discriminate against them. Turn your nose up when you see one, in the malls. And I'm sure I'm going to get mail now, and that people are going to listen to this later. Oh, what a hateful prick! They just stabbed somebody in my state for nothing. Allahu Akbar stabbed him. Now they're making a cover up. In my view, I see this as a cover up. Where allegedly, no, there was Michiganders there that said they heard. Look, and I'm rambling about this, bro, because we need to be allowed to shame them, and I think that's the reason we have Islamophobia.
The guy is still alive, isn't he?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Yes.
He's not even marked. I cannot believe that.
That's what I mean. So I think now it's the problem is once someone is under arrest and the process begins, then the press always has to refer to it as allegedly and whatever.
And I understand
what I mean?
Well, of course they do. Innocent until proven guilty, of course.
So I think in that regard, it's not necessarily a cover-up. It's more a matter of we now have to follow the procedures because
the procedures are usually...
Otherwise, they can accuse us of having influenced the trial, and the man might get off that way.
Here's the difference, Britisher. You have, in one way, it would probably be worded something like this. White Aryan brother shouts white power while stabbing black officer. And then his name and everything right away, even though he could be a part of a cell of white supremacists that were trying to do so, everything right away. Or in this case, you have, or people heard that. They would put that in the article. People heard this man say, white power, stab, stab, stab. That's not saying it happened. That's saying that witnesses said. In this case, they say allegedly. At the first article I read said that allegedly people heard. Now, to me, that's impugning folks that maybe I would see at the local market. They're not just going to say, shout at Allahu Akbar. That's not going to happen. Sorry, man. I just don't know. This is really bumming me out because it's right here in a place where we give them such aid and succor, Britisher. It's I've told you, when you go there, it's just like that street you were telling me, we were talking about in London or wherever it is. what would you call it? Little India or?
Oh no, there's a street, there's a road that runs out of the centre of Manchester, and it's called it's the Oxford Road, and it's called the Curry Mile.
There you go.
Because there are lots and lots and lots of sort of Indian restaurants that sell curry of all types.
Yeah, and the Curry Mile. Well, we have that here, man. You go to Dearborn, brother. You're in the Middle East. The roads aren't paved in a lot of places. High bermed sidewalks like you'd see in a third world country.
Yeah, no, that does sound rather odd. Yes, because the Oxford Road as such, other than for the fact that there are kind of Asian tenants within the buildings as such are still the same British red brick buildings lining the streets than you would get in any other part of Manchester.
Well.
So as such, it doesn't suddenly become a different country. Do you understand what I mean? So at least there is that.
And I don't have no problem with that, as long as they would be a part. I'm telling you, man, there should be an uproar from the Muslim community there. They should be saying, holy crap. Yeah, it happened in Ohio State, it happened over here. You're 80 miles away from where we live. What do you want these people to think about? Because I'm telling you, here in this state, it's on. Black folk, white folks, Mexican folks, all the folks have been here for a while. Probably about 15% of Muslim folks are thinking, you bastards. Here, you bastards.
Look, Ogre, I get it that it strikes very close to home simply because it's been so near you. Still, I believe that shaming every single Muslim isn't really the solution for the long term. That's
cool. You're more than welcome to your opinion, man. I mean, I know tell anybody else.
I mean, seriously, let's not forget that at least some of the Muslims are citizens of the country. So you can't really exactly go around and remove their citizenship and all that.
I know what we could do. We could have a special police force that goes out and interrogates Muslims to find out which ones are the good ones, and then we could have them on our side to shame the rest. No, I don't know, man.
I think
we could call it Gestapo.
I think what the Ogre is kind of driving at really is that there needs to be some sort of incentive within the Muslim community itself to sort itself out.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That basically, if they're not doing this, and there is to a certain extent that there is this how do we say, there is this phenomenon of whenever there's a terror attack, you get various imams and whatever appearing on television saying this has nothing to do with Islam. Now, at one moment, they're kind of trying to say, this is a perversion of our creed. This is not proper Islam. But at the same time, the community as a whole uses it as an excuse to basically say, well, we don't need to change because this has nothing to do with us. We are proper Muslims. That's something completely different. Someone else needs to deal with that. And that effectively leads to absolutely nothing happening. And one of the problems we're facing is that both the community leaders within the Muslim community and our politicians don't really seem to be, in any country, driving toward any sort of solution. Everybody seems to just be keen to manage the situation. Let's have some more surveillance. Let's pay for some more police or some such thing. But what the population wants is for it to stop. They want the plotting to end. They don't want people who may have been plotting a terror attack to be arrested just before they blow themselves up. That's good. But what we want is there not to be any plotting to start with.
It'd be nice.
Because, we have to understand, for example, that an entire generation has since grown up by now with this. I mean, if you think how much time has passed since 9/11.
So, 1978, mate.
Well, I mean, by at that time, it wasn't really sort of, religiously inspired.
You could go back to 1994 with the first bombing.
I think it was in Paris that the first sort of nail bomb went off in the metro about 1995, 1994, something like that.
That's when they really started against the West. But anyway, I get your point.
That is 20 years. So in these 20 years, we've now had an entire generation grow up. And to them, this is becoming the new normal. And the simple fact is that this is not normal. I mean, the other day we had an event in my town. Now, I don't live in some kind of major conurbation. And we had armed police on the street because there was a summer event on. So this must be replicated all across Britain. So even in fairly minor places, they must by now bring out the armed police from some of the major cities.
And how often would you see an armed police officer before this? I mean,
never.
How often would you? Never.
Never.
Okay.
Never.
All right.
So, I mean, in my town, I mean, people's jaws dropped when these guys walked by because they had fully automatic weapons on them. You know, they had bulletproof vests, they had sidearms. These were seriously trained, you know, people
the Legionnaires.
Yes, yeah. I mean, suddenly we had kind of paramilitary folks walking through the streets of the town, and you just thought, this doesn't look good. And you see that, and at the same time, you've got all this surveillance, that one surveillance law after the other has been piled on top of each other. I mean, under Obama in America, a huge expansion of surveillance all across civil society has happened. So when we've got this Trudeau thing, if we kill them, they win. This idea that all we need to do is hold a minute's silence, have a candlelit vigil, and move on, because if we let them change us, they win. Well, the thing is, they are already changing us. Given that we have got all this surveillance, given that I've suddenly had armed policemen walk by me and have never seen one in my town.
Man, I'm trying to put that in my head because I don't like seeing, you know how I feel about it. I'm not going to belabor, but I'm trying to place it in my head. Now I'm in my little town. I've grown up in my life. I've looked at little towns in England. I'm trying to picture it. And suddenly there's a guy here with an AR-15, you know, pointed down military style with some blackness on the side. I mean, that would be a little shaking, you know?
You know, I mean, all around people's jaws just simply dropped. Everyone just stared in disbelief.
Yeah, of course, man.
I wanted to point out that not only there is the police presence, but also all the surveillance mechanics is being perverting our democracies.
Precisely, yes.
It's been used for both economic spying on other countries, but also for economic spying inside country, but also for spying on, for example, political candidates. And even the simple mundane fact that all the candidates running for any political positions are know very well that the deep state has all that there is to be had on them, all kinds of dirty information. They will toe the line much more than normally.
Well, I don't like the giving up liberty for, or giving up freedom for security, liberty for security. I just don't like the idea. And to me, there's a little liberty lost when you come from a place where violence is so non-existent that you got a Bobby over there with a nightstick, and he'll club you. I mean, a nightstick's a deadly weapon, isn't that enough? And he or she should know how to use the sucker too. But compared to, and this is what's happened. So I understand some people are saying, Britisher, that there's always been armed police in England, and that someone said on the certain
there has always been armed police in England, and if you were to go to London, you would expect to see armed police because of the terror threat and whatever. But, also if, after a terror attack in Manchester, you would more than likely expect perhaps at the major railway station and, perhaps the airport and so on, you would expect to see armed police. That's not the issue. It's a matter that you are actually talking at a fairly, a smaller town, where you really never see an armed policeman walk around. You just simply don't. It simply is not part of a British experience.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to just belabor that point. It's just I don't like the idea of losing liberties. And whereas someone like myself, I think, well, everybody should be able to carry a gun, and you know how I feel about that. But it's still, if you're used to a situation where, like I said, it's old Sergeant McClure coming down with his billy club, making sure the boys ain't up to no good. And then that's the extent of the law enforcement in your town. You never had any need for anything else. To seeing that, it's taken away a little something away from you.
Yes, very much so. Yes, and also as Mark just said, that basically the introduction of the surveillance state is not just an imposition in itself. It is actually, by its sheer presence, corrupting the entire process.
Man.
And in that regard, when we look at our liberties and whatever, which were largely defined in the sort of 18th century, nobody envisaged this sort of threat. So we simply don't really know how to deal with it. But what is so staggering is that there just doesn't seem to be anything forthcoming. There doesn't seem to be anybody signaling a way forward. Instead, one is just merely interested in managing the situation as it is, as if to say, well, who knows? Maybe the problem is going to resolve itself and go away. And
I have a very... No.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not going to happen, is it?
Yeah, I have a very nasty theory about that, in that various forces in governance and industry actually do profit heftily from building up this whole security and dragnet surveillance apparatus. And they will not be really happy if it were to go down. So there is already kind of industry, and I mean both security, police, and also the IT industry responsible for spying and surveillance, that in a way has this vested interest in keeping it. And also, to some extent, even perhaps politicians, they do want to have more control over the wider society. So in a way, they don't really want to solve the problem and be done with it. They do profit in various ways from the problem being managed, as you call it nicely.
Yeah, and if y'all remember, Berkshire, you were part of this. We did a thing just a very short time ago where we decided that we'd come up with a few. This is what we came up with about this Islam thing: to have quotas on refugees, to have assimilation where you had a long process, to end faith schools. I think that was yours, Britisher, and you said end the CNS. That's eluding me what that may be. Sure, you'll tell me. And then also the doppelganger, I said, I believe said assimilation through work to be here, assimilate them with their work. In other words, have a trade and you would have buddies in that trade, like I talked about, happened in Flint. Parental patronage, that came from, I remember Jeremy, where you would have people that would actually volunteer. It'd be a volunteer basis. They say, oh yeah, there's some Muslim, whatever culture wants to come here. They come live with me for 4 years. And I'll teach them just like I would my children, the ABCs and a whole 9 yards. And then the last one, I think, was to be honest about Islam. So the idea that people can't, I mean, I know no one here was saying this, but the idea that people can't come together and come up with solutions to the problem is crazy. And they don't have to be, deporting people. They don't have to be much. It doesn't have to be much, but it can happen.
Now that you mentioned the points from the list, it reminds me of one case where we have something similar in our Western society, I believe, namely South Korea. They do have special schools training people who successfully escaped from North Korea to reintegrate them back into modern capitalistic and modernistic society. They really have to teach them the basics. So in a way, we have a working model of that. I believe the difference may be that all the escapees probably are not very happy with their former North Korean ideology. So maybe here's the only problematic difference.
That just reminded me of something. I don't know. Yesterday I had a Twitter conversation that was something to be believed. There was it was one of those kind of Twitter conversations that ding-donged backwards and forwards and kind of slowly, gradually went down the rabbit hole into Alice in Wonderland territory. It was one of these people who, how should we say, since we've had Jeremy Corbyn come to the rise here, we've got many sort of starry-eyed socialists and communists and Marxists of all colors come to the fore, and it was just unreal that this girl was just trying to argue with me. That communism would be something that could work without a state.
Without a state?
Yes. But I was kind of dumbstruck for a while, sort of thinking, well, hang on a moment. Communism is almost the archetype of the super state, if you think of it, And this went on, this kind of ding-donged backwards and forwards until, I eventually at some point said, look, I am actually old enough to have been around when the wall came down.
Wow.
I have spoken to people who grew up behind the wall. They were not best pleased. You know, they didn't like the system. So then she suddenly says, oh, well, that just shows your ignorance because I was born in the USSR. So she must have just been born in about the last year of the USSR or something like that.
There's no...
And I sort of said, you know, really? You are actually from Russia. You're from the country that went through all this. And you're actually arguing here in Britain for communism.
Man, that's insanity. Wait, she probably don't remember waiting for 4 hours to get a potato and a rotten onion.
Precisely. And then it was just one of the most unbelievable conversations ever, if you know what I mean. And I think in the end, she kind of was making the argument. She kind of got lost several times in arguments. And as is always the case with these people, when you put any pointed questions to them, like, you know, name any successful communist nation, you never get an answer to that. They always move on to another point, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There's not one.
She was always, you know, so in the end, she sort of said, well, that the majority of Russians want the USSR back.
Oh, Lord.
And she even presented me with some, you know, newspaper article. And I sort of, you know, by that time, we were pretty much at the end of the conversation.
You know, I was just sitting here thinking I could see why, but if you cannot the USSR, because of course they would want the places back that once was Russia. Oh man, that's killing me.
It is a complete misunderstanding of the actual subject that now that nationalism has become a big thing in Russia, they see their time as the USSR as having been the time when they were a superpower and they dominated large parts of the globe. That is what they want back.
Yes.
But if you ask any of the Russians whether they would want communism back,
no.
The idea that the majority of them would sort of say, oh, yes, I still remember, you know, Grandmama telling me how she ran out of potatoes one winter. This must be a good system. Let's have that back.
Yeah, I had to eat little Vlad.
It is just unreal. But we are getting this level of ignorance now, coming up with new Marxists coming out of Western universities. And it is staggering that they are completely ignorant of history. They are filled with zeal. And of course, they will represent quite a force when it comes to future politics. And you just sort of think, well, after all the world has gone through in the last 100 years, that we still have to deal with this is, to my mind, staggering. Because surely this has now been ticked off. We can throw communism onto the dung heap of history together with fascism and some other isms. But, well, apparently not.
Well, I think so. Yeah, I believe that's where it belongs. And I don't believe in burning books. Don't get me wrong. That's what the communists wanted to do. But here's the thing. This goes back. My mind was just clicking as you were talking. And shaming. You know, when I was young, Ronald Reagan had about, I don't know. He must have had 50 or 60 good jokes about Russians. Just communism, though. It was about the country and how it was being ran. I remember one about 3 dogs. There was a dog from the United States and a dog from France, I think, or something like that, and a dog from Russia. And the American dog was like, man, I've been hungry. When I bark, I'm trying to remember. I might mangle this too. When I bark, my master, he throws me some leftover steak. And the French dog says, what's steak? And the Russian dog says, what's bark? In other words, I hope everybody got that. In other words, a dog can't even complain. Let alone get steak. And he had a million of those. And that was a public way of saying that, no,
one of his gags in that regard was also one where he says there are some, you know, there's an endless queue of Russians, you know, they're all standing there queuing for bread. And eventually one of them just sort of, you know, he flips and he starts shouting and sort of raving and says, I've had enough. I've had enough. I'm going home. I'm going to get a kitchen knife and I'm going to the Kremlin and I'm going to stab Khrushchev. And a few hours later, he's back and just rejoins the queue which hasn't moved an inch by then. And the people look at him and go, well, I thought you were going to stab Khrushchev? Yes, I went for my knife. I went to the Kremlin. But the queue to stab Khrushchev is even longer.
Well, okay, I got one more. Was that from Ronald Reagan?
I think that was one of Reagan's.
Okay, here's one from Ronald Reagan, man.
It's definitely one of the sort of old communist jokes, yes.
Oh, yeah. This was definitely, well, and like I said, it's probably stolen, but this was one in his repertoire that I heard him say at least once. He was like, okay, this old man, he went from his government, his government apartment because he had a plumbing issue. So he went down to the state, plumbing department. He was like, well, I'm here to get my plumbing fixed. When my toilet, flush my toilet, it doesn't flush. I have to go downstairs, use the restroom. Like, okay, sir, it looks like 10 years from today, Tuesday, 10 years from today, we'll have a opening for you. We'll send somebody over. He says, will that be morning or evening? And the man says, 10 years from now, what does it matter if it's morning or evening? He said, oh, the electrician will be there in the morning. It's not cool to laugh at your own joke. I sometimes do. But yeah, it's so, do you see that right now we can't really even make jokes? You got Satan. If y'all don't know who he is, he makes some funny daggone videos, like animation style videos about SJWs and Muslims. He's got Muhammad coming home and talking to the old lady, like while he's writing the Quran. That's where I get that from. That's how he says Quran. And it's just hilarious, man. have you ever heard of Ambrosius Satan?
No, I haven't. No.
May not be up your street. I won't even lie. You may think it's hilarious, but it is an American version of English satire. There's no doubt about that. It's just a little bit more, American.
Yeah.
The guy is, I believe he's gay. I don't know if he's gay, but they found out where he lived, man. They got a fatwa out on him, of course. Any Muslim that can see him should kill him and all that. They got a fatwa on Steven Crowder. I don't think it's too hard to get one of those.
Wait, so if I were to refuse to sell some gay person a wedding cake, that would be hate speech. But if somebody issues a fatwa, that's nothing, right?
Well, in this country, if you're Christian and refuse to sell somebody a wedding cake based on whatever, a gay or black, whatever, anything like that, then you'll lose your business. They'll fine you. I can't remember what the fine is, man, but it's over $250,000 if I got my head right. And then they'll fine you that much every time you refuse. So if the people just come back and ask you again the next day, they fine again, and they just put these people out of business. But no, if you're them, the fatwa is fine, and they don't have to sell cakes to anybody if they don't like them, where they look. But that part's the way it should be. And there's signs all over the place around here. I've told people this in the bars and whatnot. Says we reserve the right to refuse service for any reason.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. They just ask you. They'd be like, I don't. You got to go. You say, why? I don't like the way you look. Fuck out. I've never really been tossed out like that, but I've been, if you go to a bar and you get rowdy or something, which I may have done it once, they will ask you to leave nicely the first time. Then everybody in the bar basically throws you the hell out.
I think their precise words will have been, will you please put the table down, Mr. Ogre, and leave the establishment?
Oh, me and the king might have broke a table or two. Accidentally, no, just funning. We was just funning. But good Lord, there should be a place in the old days, like you look at the old West, there's Skid Row. That actually comes from around here. The French people, they have where they skidded the logs to go down to the river to start, moving logs as they were logging. They had Skid Row. That's where that name comes from. But you'd have that to where you can go get a little drunk or whatever and get your prostitute, shoot your gun in the sky, get in a fight, whatever you want to do. And it basically, it's yeah, we need more of that. I think we need more of that. Maybe that would solve the Islam problem.
Yeah, this is commentary when something like getting prostitute and shooting your gun is actually good old times as compared to today's world.
Yeah, good old time, just having fun, But anyway, and as long as nobody gets hurt, of course. I mean, even back then, and to some extent, aren't there still some places like that in the world where, I know Mexico, man. There's a place called Boys Town, and minus the firearm, everything I just said, man. You go walk. It's an old prison. Check it out. It's in Laredo Nueva, outside of Laredo, Texas, in Mexico. And this whole big compound that was a prison, about 15, 20-foot wall all the way around it, adobe wall with glass nails on the top, about 4 or 5 feet wide, all the way around the place. There's only about 2 ways to get in and out. That's why I only went in once, man. I did not like that. But you get in there, it's about a square mile. So once you start walking, you kind of forget. But they got this one section where they left the cells there, and they're just each little cell, like an adobe cell with a door on it. Chicks, you know, in there, and some dudes. The prettiest chicks at Boys Town that I've seen, and anybody can look this up, I'm sure it would be on the internet. Boys Town, Laredo, Nueva, Mexico. The prettiest ones there were dudes, and I didn't know the guy that was like my tour guide. I just like met him this night in Laredo, Nueva. I was there. It doesn't matter why I was there, but anyway, make a long story short, there's still places you can go like that, and nobody that got really. The guy that I was with did punch somebody. He punched a hooker. He'd already been with. Let me tell you this, man. This is no joke either. Let me give you a little anecdote, something different from the Muslim thing. So I met this guy bigger than me, big old fucker, man. Said that he was, I believe, some kind of money guy. He was a money manager, something like that. He had money. It was obvious. We were a little ways away from the border. He was like, man, why don't you ride with me, man? A nice BMW. Well, ride with me. I'm going to go down, park my car, walk across the border, and go to Boys Town. I'll show you all about it. I was like, all right. He was sober when I met him. By the time we walked around this compound like this, and we pointed out the dudes, and I was like, wow, those are the hottest chicks I've ever seen. He was like, no. Those are not chicks, but they're for sale also. Everything's for sale here. And he was drinking tequila. So then he found this beautiful young senorita, you know, and he was like, boom, closed door. I sat there and watched Godzilla in Spanish with like a hot dog vendor. You know, I'm just not, I don't, and look, I would have been able to, if anybody wants to prostitute, go ahead and do it. It's just not my bag. It's not my bag. So I wasn't down for that. But he got done with that. We were walking around. He wanted to get some perico. That's wetback for cocaine. And you get anything in there. And so he was like, we were at this bar. He's drinking more tequila. He's getting belligerent. I could see a couple dudes over there watching him. And you kind of forget because they're all like 5'2", that they're men. And I was noticing this, and I was my time here was done. We've been there about 3.5, 4 hours at this point. And man, when he got his perico, he wasn't happy with the quantity, man. And so he throws it, you know, I'm sure the guys that are there, the ones that you got it from, they're probably fucking cartel. You know what I mean? We're in a stone enclosure. And I'm getting up. I'm ready to go. I'm close to the door at this point, man. And he punched that bitch right in the face, man. I mean, boom. She dropped like a sack of mail. She wasn't unconscious, but she was making some grunting, groaning, slobbering sounding noises. And at that point, I thought he was done. But the guys, they didn't even hardly flinch because they'd gotten their money, or whoever had gotten their money, whoever these people watching had gotten their money. Some hooker got hit, which don't believe me, I don't feel that way. But some hooker got hit, and this guy's now leaving. And man, we got the hell out of there. I'll tell you what, I never went back there, and I never went across the border with somebody I didn't know again either. I never did that again either. But there you go. That's the end of the story. Yeah, go check out Boys Town if you're ever down there. Don't go to the donkey shows. I don't want to explain to you what that is if you don't know. But if you see a donkey out there and they'd say like $20 amigo, just say, nah, I'm good. You don't want to see that shit.
How many times when watching Godzilla in Spanish did the troops that are firing desperately at Godzilla when he comes around the corner, how many times did they say "ay caramba"?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I probably did hear that phrase. That's weird when you hear something like that, like Bart Simpson's phrase, and they're actually saying. But he was only in there, and I was only there watching. I'll just never forget it was Godzilla. Like, ¿Dónde está, amigo? La serpentino grande aquí. Vámonos, you know, bye. And it's like, wow, that actually. So, but it was probably, he wasn't in there long. That's all I know. 5-10 minutes at most. He was done. Had a big smile on his face. Poor girl in there. I don't know.
As long as Godzilla, whilst roaming through the streets of New York, wasn't shouting, "Andale, andale, arriba, arriba, arriba."
Hey, man, let me ask you something, British. I don't know if you know this. This was something that was creepy to me about the whole situation. How old do you think? Because remember, Mexico virtues all over us. We got to take anybody comes from there, even if they're from Venezuela and or wherever, Honduras. And then you got Vicente Fox saying "fuck," you know, whatever, all this stuff. But how old do you think is legal to be a prostitute if you're a female in Mexico? Do you know the age?
I would assume that more than likely the law would say 18, but you know, it could also possibly be 16. But
yeah, look it up. This is not like, because we'll also set the record straight right before we end, which is going to be very close. Today is Mrs. Ogre's birthday. 13 years old. As soon as you're 13, oh yeah, as soon as you're 13, whether you're a boy or a girl, you can be legally.
Is 13 therefore the age of consent outright, and therefore
I'm not sure. I do believe Mexico's so messed up that if you had a girl that was from a wealthy family and some off the other side of the tracks boy was like slipping into the old schwanza, nah, man, they probably have some statutory law there where the parent can step in. But if this is some poor girl that needs some tortillas, don't have no fucking money, ain't smart enough to be a teacher, because all the there's waiters. No women work there, buddy. They do two things. You could be a nun, don't pay you. They just feed you, and you got to do a lot of shit for it. And you could be a nurse, or you could be a teacher. Outside of that, man, it's like the Old West. There's not the men are the waiters. The men are the men do everything because that's work, and there's not a whole lot of work there. Anyway, no, so it's 13, and I just don't dig all the virtues thing. In fact, the girl that he went in with, man, if she was 15, and she was, I would have been shocked. And the whole thing was.
I'm just reading here on Wikipedia, the all-knowing Wikipedia. It says Mexico, the federal law establishes the age of 12 as the minimum age of consent, while the age at which there are no restrictions for consensual sexual activities is 18.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Sex with someone 12 to 18 is not illegal per se, but can still be open to prosecution under certain circumstances.
Thank you. There you go. Just like I said.
So it seems to kind of, there seem to be sort of fairly flexible federal laws, and then it depends on the individual state law in Mexico as to,
Well, according to that, they could be 12 and consent to sex. And if you want to pay them, believe me, the police officer, you know what he's going to say? He's going to say, ¿Tú tienes uno permiso, amigo? And you're going to say, ¿permiso? ¿Yo tengo permiso? No. ¿Cuánto cuesta uno permiso? And what just happened? He said, do you have a permit, sir? And you said, no, I don't have a permit. How much is a permit? And then he's going to tell you, and you pay him. No big deal. That's how everything works in Mexico. The cop says, do you have a permit? Usually that's what they ask you. Do you have a permit for this? And you say, oh, no, I don't have a permit. I didn't know I was supposed to have one. Yo no sabe uno permiso. ¿Cuánto cuesta? It means how much. ¿Cuánto cuesta un permiso? And the fucking guy will tell you, 50 pesos, $5, whatever usually. It depends on what you're doing. That's usually $5. And you give him that. He don't give you, by the way, he don't give you a fucking piece of paper or permit or nothing, believe me. He don't even write your name down in a book. He just takes your money and leaves.
He just nods.
Yeah, that's it. He's like got the, you can imagine, most of them dudes, they got the mustache that you imagine, like Speedy Gonzalez had, and that's it. Like,
in that regard, it is remarkable, really, if you think of it, how in Europe and North America, corruption is actually fairly under control. It exists. It exists, but it is fairly under control. Whereas in the rest of the world, it is just ubiquitous. It is everywhere. Because that sort of behavior that you described with the policeman, you might just as well encounter in Russia or in China or in Nigeria. So basically,
or India.
Yeah. So basically, once you leave Europe or the US or Canada, you are really in that part of the world. Perhaps you would have to throw in countries like Australia and New Zealand also in places where it's still fairly law abiding.
What Western civilization? Yeah. Here's the point, British.
So a quick question here.
Of course, but there's only one way to stop that, and that's pay the officers well. And those countries aren't willing to do it because if they get paid well, they don't want to take a bribe. What is it, Doc?
A quick question. What about countries, Eastern countries that are somewhat westernized, like Japan, South Korea? What about them?
Well, yeah, there's always exceptions. Well, I didn't get the full list. Do you have the full list of exceptions?
When it comes to Japan, when it comes to the police, they will be, they will sooner more than likely stab themselves, if you know what I mean. But when it comes to Japan, that is also the great public secret, isn't there? And that is, why are there no drugs in Japan?
They kill you. I don't know why.
Because, it kind of goes back from, this is from what I've been told, that there is basically when the Americans kind of effectively, wrote the Constitution for the place, several things got introduced into Japanese law that were completely alien to the Japanese. So, for example, prostitution got outlawed, gambling got outlawed, things that were kind of completely ingrained into their societies and for which they saw absolutely no moral wrong because they're not part of, Abrahamic tradition. So eventually the government and the Yakuza came to a deal. And that was quite simple. Okay, look, we can see a growing drug problem all around the world. You are organized crime, we are the government.
Yeah.
We don't want any drugs in this place.
Right.
So, you don't do drugs. And we will effectively turn a blind eye
To everything else.
To basically prostitution, to gambling, to these things that we don't really object to as a people anyway. And you can effectively run these rackets, and you will be undisturbed. We will completely leave you alone.
So
even if it's completely in the open, we will not stop you.
So is there no? So there's in Japan there's no hash. I mean, there's no drugs in it.
This is the thing. If you smuggle drugs into Japan, then of course the police theoretically will be after you, but they are not your problem. The problem are the Yakuza.
Right.
Because they effectively police it because they think, well, hang on a moment. If it were to emerge that there are drugs in the country, it will look as though we have brought it in.
That makes sense. I'm just wondering if this guy could score a dime bag there or not.
When you are in Japan, apparently, and you're trying to deal with drugs, your problem are samurai sword wielding, Japanese mafia people,
tattooed maniacs that just
precisely
come from 2,500 years of warriors.
In that regard, most people have thought twice before bringing drugs into Japan. Yeah. Any people who have sold drugs in Japan or whatever will have been people who simply didn't know. They were acting out of ignorance. Because, yes, they are a dangerous group over there. And so in a way, you could say Japan is very law-abiding. It is very, very straight-laced. But at the same time, there is this openly corrupt deal that everybody in Japan knows about. But effectively, it's that no politician will admit to.
Do I surmise correctly that, in a way, Japan outsourced enforcement of no drugs policy to those sort of private police that have no moral qualms about actually chopping somebody's
cut your arm off?
I like the word. I like the use of the verb outsourcing there. Yes, creative use of language. Yes. Yeah. One could argue that. Yes.
Talking about it like he's getting an IT company, an IT consultant,
Yeah, consultants. Yakuza being consultants here. Yeah, I was trying actually to make a stab at people believing in perhaps anarcho-capitalists or of similar ilk, believing in that there should be no government and police should be outsourced to private entities.
Well, that would be the best, obviously.
I'm not sure whether the Yakuza necessarily would be a good example of outsourcing your police work.
Not bad, though. Especially if it was like they confined it to gambling and prostitution, made sure the girls were the right age and the boys, whatever, made sure the people coming to gamble, because a lot of times, this is how it is. When you have the mob in control of something, yeah, on a large scale, they may not know you or care. But say they police themselves. It's good for them to not let Charlie gamble his whole check away and to refuse to give him another marker or whatever, knowing that he's going to make more money, come back and spend some of that at the casino, much more, than if he just blows his whole everything down. It's not good for them if I could go on and on and on. So it does sound weird, but you struck a nerve when you said anarcho-capitalism, because that is the best government that you could conceive. Be a government unto each human being, would be responsible for your own welfare. And the idea, I know, everybody, what about the roads? My roads. What about the schools? When this country was founded after the Revolutionary War, this would have been considered the West. They call it the Midwest now. And North Dakota, man, it would be the West. Listen, that was a completely anarcho-capitalist society where they brung in the goods. They hired their own sheriff. They hired their own school teacher, built their own school. Nobody was charged to go to school. There would be a doctor. I think, if anything, people that love social medicine would hate that fact, because if the doctor, if you couldn't pay him, I don't know, a lot of them old timers be like, oh, you got whatever. Besides that, even if they did know you had something really serious wrong, they just put a fucking leech on you. I didn't even know what they do. Cut a hole. You got a headache, they cut a freaking hole in your head. Just charge you $100 and drain the pain out or whatever. Bleed you. Got you sitting there just pumping it. You know what I mean? Anyway, so it has worked in the past. And folks, I'm over this because it's been 3 hours. Today is Mrs. Ogre's birthday. And the cool thing about that is that it's the summer solstice. It's the 21st, the first day of summer, the longest sunshine, longest daylight day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And so anyway, I've still done this. It was fun. I probably was. In fact, I wasn't going to be here until the Flint thing came up. And I wanted to say something about it just because, I don't know, man, the news that I see covering it is bull. And something's got to give. Intelligent people, much smarter than the British or I, and much smarter than the people here, have to come together and figure out what we're going to do about this, man. Oh, hi, Conscious Caracal.
Hey guys, it's been a while since I've been able to make time for a stream, but yeah, it seems like these streams pop up when big news hits the mainstream, which seems to be the case.
I was trying, and this was I wouldn't call this all-out fake news, but I would say that they're covered. And look, Mark was saying earlier about the lies by omission that take place in the media, and that's all I was saying. And British made some good points too. Of course, they can't release a lot of information with ongoing, investigation. So more power to them. Mm-hmm. I just hope
just heard the news recently. So if you could give me like a short summary, that would be awesome. Just like I know a police officer got stabbed, but like,
I'll just not ready to split. Else? I could probably squeeze out another 5 minutes before I really am going to split. So here it is. A guy in Flint, Michigan. They're saying a Canadian-born Quebecer from Quebec and now some witnesses there said they heard him shout Allahu Akbar and stabbed a police officer, the retired lieutenant. His name was Jeffrey. I can't find his name right here. But anyway, a retired lieutenant, and they're releasing his name. And now they have him in custody. They're not releasing his name. They've made it clear. They say it's too soon to say it was a terror attack. Mark Doppelganger mentioned the Coulter's law. That says the longer it takes him to say it, we know that it wasn't a white male Christian for sure.
I'm familiar, yeah.
Yeah, and anyway, that's what we were talking about. And in some ways, I don't know. I went on a rant about shaming and thought that maybe it's about time that we started to shame this community. Maybe also boycotted the use of their products.
And do you want shamed? Who are you referring to?
Oh, in this case, it'd be Islam, any Islamic or Muslim, and not the Nation of Islam consisting of black people. I had to make that difference before on this. And in my tirade before, not today, but I have. And so I'll make a difference. Right now, the Nation of Islam is not actively saying blow yourself up. They are actively saying, why is his name eluding me? Farrakhan is actively saying white devil. Now he's kind of backposted. White devil is a title that would apply to anybody. We just use it like black male. That's what he's saying. And on top of that, he also denounces the use of any kind of force for Hezbollah, holy energy or anything. And what they're doing is like the Tet Offensive. It's Ramadan and ramping it up. So I would make that distinction.
Yeah. Relating to British, not news. British. I heard a guy told me. I read a guy tweeted the other day that he said after the attack at, I can't remember the place's name. After that guy drove the truck into the people in front of the mosque, he says the demands for more police near mosques now is actually a good thing. Because now that's exactly what they actually need, is to just have a bigger security presence closer to these communities.
Yeah,
and now, man,
as opposed to on bridges.
Well, this is what happens when you build bridges, not walls. You end up with walls on your bridges.
You end up with trucks driving through them, people on the bridge. But that is it in a nutshell. And I got to split, folks, man. I'm going to take some time and chill with Mrs. Ogre. And it's the longest day. It's her birthday today, Conscious Character.
Ogre, 1 second, please, if I may, because the British has just posted a beautiful link with a beautiful photo.
I thought I shared that, but I might not have.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's basically the reason I put the link up was because Stonehenge, of course, is built like some kind of giant astronomical clock that basically works aligned to the summer solstice. So that's why lots of people always gather for the summer solstice at Stonehenge.
Yeah. Oh, I thought most people know that. There's also some places in South and Central America, a couple in Mexico, where they have built these pyramids, and you can see it looks like a snake climbing up as the sun rises today. And so there were a lot of people down there, you know, with their cameras and taking pictures of the snake going up. I believe it does it also it does it on the solstices and on the equinoxes, if I'm not mistaken. But those folks were also brilliant astronomers, man. I mean, way up there with anybody you could name from Europe. They really knew their stuff.
It's rather scary, given how how primitive a time it was when they built Stonehenge. That the stones are not local. They were actually brought some distance.
Aliens did it, dude. Aliens.
Oh, now you're in von Däniken territory. He was convinced.
David Icke.
Ogre, we need to do another conspiracy theory stream definitely sometime soon.
Oh, I agree. I was trying to today, but the Britisher ain't having it. He ain't gonna talk about like cabals.
Well, my holidays just started a few days ago, so I'll be able to join you now on a weekly basis. So
I'm sure I'll be back Friday.
You know.
If my wife don't kill me for hanging out here too long, I don't know what we're gonna do. I'm getting hungry.
Getting a holiday sounds like a conspiracy to me.
Oh, it's winter over there. So listen, man, I
think we best let the ogre go.
Yeah,
so,
I gotta go.
Before you do your summary, you know, give my regards to Mrs. Ogre.
Oh, I will, man. British, you said hi. I actually heard it.
It's nice to see that romance is still alive in Michigan.
Hey, old lady, the meatloaf. There's a fucking meatloaf. Lily wants the meatloaf too. No, of course I'll tell her. I think she might actually be out looking at her garden. She loves the garden. Bye, doppelganger. And is that that's it, Brett? I've really got it. That rhymed. That's it, Brett. I got it split. So listen, folks, I don't know what else to say about what we were talking about. I don't claim to have all the answers. I just try to tell y'all what I think. I don't even know why. I haven't even quite figured out why yet. Maybe you'll think about what I think, and the Britisher and everybody else that shows up, Caracal and Doppelganger, and you'll think what you think and put those things together in a pot, stir them up, and come up with a new think. Or maybe not. I mean, I have no idea. But whatever that may be, something's got to be done when people are actively saying that they believe the right and religious way would be to end your very life. You know, and I hope that Lieutenant Jeff's all right. Looks like I said before that they've upgraded him now to from critical to stable. So usually when you're in an American hospital, you're a retired police officer and you're in stable condition, you're probably going to be all right. But no matter what, he has the mental memory. He has the memory. He has the PTSD. If you don't think that happens, believe me, I don't care how long this guy was on the force. He's going to think about this at another date. And he's going to wonder what he could have done wrong to prevent it. And he's going to blame himself. All this stuff is going to happen to this poor man. We got to do something about it. What is it? I don't really know. I gave some solutions. I think we came up with some before. So here you go, folks. Be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. Be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology. Man, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, your loved one has done seems to be so huge, you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, you know what I'm going to say. At a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, all you hold dear will depart from you. Hey, listen, Sydney, I don't even see you anymore, man. I hope you're not dead. Later.